You could put the agenda up then too.
He's the top. Okay.
Does you want another
Makers?
Cheetos?
Oh, yeah.
I'll get it. No, it's not. I'll just tell her.
Yeah, just on our table. And mute your stuff.
Okay, and I at this time ask that everybody mutes their microphones. Just because I'm getting feedback from somewhere. Okay, very good. And it is 6 o'clock. Are you ready to run?
I'm ready.
Okay, great. Okay, if there's no objection, I will call the City of Reading Planning Commission meeting for Tuesday, February 22nd for the year 2022 to order. Our first point of business is to acknowledge our new Planning Commission member, Peter Rye, who is here. And we welcome you. Thank you very much for joining us. With that, I guess that gives us 6 members. Of course, I'm never good at math, so. Okay. Next on the agenda will be the acceptance of the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I would ask that you make this a motion to amend the agenda as provided due to there was an issue with getting it posted within 24 hours as required by the new Sunshine Act amendment due to the holiday.
Yes, I remember seeing that email. So do I hear a motion to accept the amended agenda as was sent out, I believe today?
This is Bob Conklin. I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as they're written and amended for Tuesday, February 22nd, 2022.
And a second to accept the agenda? I'll second that. All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, very good. And opposed? Okay. With that, we have an agenda.
And I would just ask the minutes to reflect that it was amended accordingly. And so we have compliance with the Sunshine Act amendment.
Very good. And first on our agenda for review is the Scribner annexation plan. And with that, I will turn it over to Jerome.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Scheibner annexation plan is an annexation plan. Emily, if we can have that on the screen. This was a 2-lot or 3-lot development with a 1-family unit, which has attached units. The objective of the plan is to combine all 3 lots, and then to, as part of the building permit phase, is to renovate and convert the the two-family to a one-family. So the plan will focus on the annexation portion of this project, and then the building permit itself will focus on the conversion. Plan review was done on February 14th. Plan was prepared by John Hoffert Surveyors. You see John Hoffert is here. The plan is rather, again, a simple plan, and it seems like everything is pretty much in order with the plan. We just had some comments that would need to be addressed, and some of those already have been addressed, including the Berks County Planning Commission review, as well as the information that was requested from Mr. Hoffert. John, do you want to chime in here?
No, at this point in time, the property is situated along South 17 and a half Street. And it is the consolidation or the combination of joining 663, 665, and 669 South 17 and a half Street together. Mr. Scheibner is a vet, and through granting through the VA, they are funding pretty much this project relative to the conversion of what would have been the semi-detached property on 663 and 665 into one overall single-family detached dwelling. It includes not only internal work, but the disconnect of certain outside utilities, such as eliminate one sewer and one water connection to the existing main, which will be done accordingly, according to the utility abandonment of each utility. I'm sorry, I hear a lot of feedback. Can you all hear me yet?
Yes.
Yes, we can, John. You're good.
Oh, okay, thank you. So for the most part, this is not a subdivision per se, but a consolidation or an annexing of three separate parcels into one, so that the Scheibners can stay on this property in a soon-to-be converted single-family detached dwelling.
Mr. Chairman, it seems like everything, the plan's in order. We would recommend final plan approval, subject to the applicant complying with the remaining issues that are in the February 14th review letter.
Mr. Chairman, Michelle Mayfield here. I just have one question just for clarification. There's no exterior construction. I see the pool and the deck and the gravel paving area. Those are all pre-existing and are not subject to change.
Michelle, they all staying there. The only thing that I am aware of that will be changed by this particular plan relative to the dwelling would be the internal portion of the dwelling.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any comments from, any other comments from staff?
Yeah,
And
Wayne, if you don't mind, just one quick comment. And hello, Peter. My name is Tim Kroll. I'm the city engineer. I'm with Public Works. I'm part of the staff. So I'm here just for the engineering comments on this. And for this plan, I think the only engineering concern would be the elimination of that one sewer lateral. I guess if there's a sewer lateral that's being eliminated, we want to make sure that that is properly capped and sealed so that we don't get any inflow from that lateral. And I trust that that would be probably part of the plumbing inspection. Usually J. Montgomery handles that when they do the plumbing inspection. But if we could be notified then just to make sure that that's inspected properly.
Tim, just to let you know, this is John again. As per Jerome's review letter, we did add a note relative to the utility abandonment, and that it's to coordinate with your office relative to any disconnect and in accordance with your rules and regulations. So we did add that particular note as per Jerome's review letter. So I think we've addressed it, and the owners in fact know to contact you, at least your department, for any disconnect as necessary.
Very good. Thank you.
then,
And that's all for me.
okay, very good. Any comments from the commissioners? Okay,
Mr. Chairman, this is Will.
go ahead, Will.
You can hear me. In the interest of full disclosure, Mr. Steibner is my first cousin. I do not think I have to recuse, but I wanted to get this listener's opinion just to be sure, and I'll certainly defer to her judgment.
No, I did confirm that, that it is all, first cousins do not qualify as immediate family under the Ethics Act, so there is no concern with
Thank
you
you.
taking action on this. And also, as a side note, I don't believe there's any monetary gain that would be an issue here as well.
Right. Thank you. I have no comments or questions, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, very good. Well, thanks for clearing that up. I did see the email on that. And that's good to know for all of us, in fact. And any other comments? Okay, hearing none, do I hear a motion to grant conditional final approval for the Schreibner annexation plan with the condition that all the plan meets all conditions laid out on the letter from Hawk Valley dated February 14th.
Mr. Chairman, this is Lee Olson. I will make that motion.
Okay, thank you, Lee. And a second?
So move.
Okay,
It's
and
Nelson Leon.
from Nelson?
Yes,
Very
Mr.
good.
Chairman.
And any question on the motion? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Very good. And we are unanimous. Thank you very much, John.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. I appreciate your efforts on this particular subdivision.
Very good.
Thank
And
you.
we will move on to the review of Albright College Exeter Hall. I will turn this over to Jerome.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This plan has been around for a while. We're at the very end of the process. As you may recall, you did approve the final plan on January 25th, subject to the applicant complying with the comments that were in our last review letter. We've gone through the current plan as well as all the documents that were submitted along with it, and just issued a updated review letter dated February 20th, in which the applicant is attempting to take care of immediately as well. Again, this plan was previously approved. I would say the February 20th letter is a status update. The big things that are being taken care of now are the municipal improvements agreement, the stormwater management agreement. There is a revised plan that has been already set or submitted for electronic signatures, but we're going to need to go through the plan one last time. There is no action that's required. I'm just bringing this up for information purposes. There's been a number of comments back and forth regarding the revised plan. And as I mentioned, we're going to take one last look at it to make sure that everything has been addressed. You can see within my review letter, February 20th, there were a few items, and I've gone through those with Bogio Engineering, and I think we're at the very end point. So the next step is we'll notify you once we believe the plan is been revised to comply with the comments that were issued. And once that has, you can come in and sign the plans. Michelle, and do you have any comments regarding the maintenance agreement as well as the stormwater management agreement?
No, I've been working with Attorney Mooney. We're just waiting for some final numbers to insert into those agreements. I would ask that if the commission would consider a motion tonight to authorize execution of the agreements upon the receipt, should this happen before the next meeting.
And then Tim is here as well. I mean, he's also one of the members that are looking at the plan on a consistent basis. So it seems like as we have one plan revised, another one comes in. Did you have anything to add, Tim?
A couple of little minor things. I pointed out in an email today that the annexation plan still shows the lot line separating the two lots. And we're in the process now of responding to the college's request for a single address being Exeter Street. And it would be best if they would take that line out or dash it, similar to what we just saw on the prior plan for the Scheibner annexation. If they just dot that line, that would make it nice and not put a meets and bounds on there. It's all going to be one lot, and it should be noted as being one lot, and therefore we'll have one address the way it's intended.
Okay, thanks, Tim. We'll go ahead and put the one line on the subdivision plan.
Very good.
We'd like
very
to try
good.
to cover the same, if that'd be okay, since we had everything signed. We thought we were there, but we're fine to
Right.
go ahead and substitute that one plan in.
Right. Yeah, and I had another comment there too, Greg, about the storm pipe that's going to be on the very north end. You can almost see it in that view there that runs and connects into the city's storm sewer. If you could move it away from the curb line, and that way you wouldn't have the probability of undermining the curb. It's just very easy to do. Just bump it out a little bit more into the street and come in at an angle. I think that should take care of it. And then, and maybe I need Michelle for assistance on this. That will be then dedicated to the city, because that portion of the storm, that 30 or 40 feet, then would become city utility. So is there a note on the plan? I didn't read all the notes. Is there a note on the plan that would offer dedication of that? And I think, Michelle, that would be required, right?
Some type of documentation indicating that the city is taking ownership of that.
Right, yeah, because we will need to own that since it's in the right of way.
Certainly, it's in your right of way that the applicant's not looking to own.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
You can put a note that on like sheet 2 or 3 to get that covered for you.
Right.
Yeah, I don't recall the city actually doing separate deeds of dedications.
I don't think so, but I think a note on the plan would be adequate for me. And then a few comments on the cost estimate, just to make sure we have sanitary. Is there just one sanitary connection, Greg, or is there more than one?
There was one.
Just that one, okay. So we want to make sure that's on the escrow too.
Okay, it's certainly something that could be.
And that's all the comments I had.
Yeah, I've asked for everyone to get comments back within the next 10 days. So there's no, you're going to need action on what Tim had, or I'm sorry, what Michelle had requested.
Yes, just authorization for execution of the agreements upon review and satisfaction to council.
Very good. Before we move on to that motion, is there any comments from the commissioners? Okay, hearing none. I will ask for a motion to authorize execution of any incoming agreements by the staff, so they can take place before our next meeting.
This is Lee Olson. I will make that motion.
And a second?
Conklin will second.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Okay, question on the motion? Very good. All those in favor? Say aye.
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 Okay, opposed? Very good. This will keep this moving ahead now. And I believe the next plan up is the Alvernia University Berkshire building, and I think that's Greg also.
Yes.
So I will turn this over to Jerome.
Okay. Thank you. This is a revised final plan of record. The final plan application is in play. We've reviewed the the plan that was been submitted to us for this month. It was revised by the applicant. Our review letter is issued on February 20th, 2022. The most critical item that is on our review letter, and also is a procedural matter, is that the applicant will need to go back to the zoning hearing board, in which it's my understanding that they've already made application. The reason why they're going back to the zoning hearing board is because the modifications to the number of apartments or dormitory uses, as well as the population or student population of the apartments or dormitories. In total, right now, there are 66 two-bedroom units, 6 studio units, and I believe 7 one-bedroom units, for a total of bed count of 145 for the students or persons that are going to be residing in this location. They also submitted revised floor plans. The floor plans do show that the residential occupancy will occur on floors 2 through 8. And floor 2, again, we went through last time, was the mezzanine level. Floor 1 will be a commercial or retail use or uses. And it's my understanding that that use has not been determined at this point. The only conflict or issue with that is that may throw a bit of a curveball on the sanitary sewage flows for the project. The review is most of the comments you've seen before, and we're still asking that the applicant address these comments that are still remaining. There are just a few traffic comments that are minor. There are no stormwater management comments. We have asked also that the curbs and sidewalks be reviewed by Public Works. And again, the procedural matter for the zoning hearing board. We've also asked that when they do attend the zoning hearing board, that the zoning hearing board does consider the revised architectural plans, elevations, and floor plans that have been submitted. Greg is here, and I believe we may have comments from other folks.
Sure. I think Chris is here as well, as far as the applicant's representation. And I guess I have one question for the curb and sidewalk. I think Tim had already issued us an email saying everything looked good. Tim, I'm not sure what the process you would like to go through, if we needed to go out into the field again, or if you're just fine with it, and then how we document that for the planning commission.
Yeah, I'll have to get you something on that. If you don't see something here in the next couple of days, send me an email. I remember we discussed this, I think, last month. And
Yeah.
I do remember the ADA curb ramp at the corner was installed by PennDOT, so there should be no questions there. And I'll have to get you something definitive on the sidewalks.
Yeah, because I think we submitted the email that you had sent me, but I guess whatever you would consider to be definitive is your answer.
Right.
By what
Right.
we need.
Right. I would say too, while we're doing that, and I think you're talking about planter boxes on the sidewalk. We just want to make sure we locate those in an area that's not going to create a visual obstruction or any kind of sight distance issue.
That's fine. We would agree.
Okay.
Yeah, Jerome, hi, this is Chris Heineman. Just to address a few of the other comments, I noted that HARB should review the proposed plans. We did submit a certificate of appropriateness application to Amy Johnson and Aaron Booth, along with the downlighting specification for the building. They have informed me that it should not be much of an issue, but I just wanted to get their comments back, making sure that it is consistent with their standards. The Fire and Rescue Department, I did speak to Jeremy Searfus at length, and I believe he did send you an email stating that the current fire hydrant standpipe locations it is satisfactory for the proposed change use. I also obtained a will serve letter from RAWA consistent with the serviceability on the building. Pertaining to the sanitary sewage, we had submitted a narrative as it pertained to the EDUs, consistent with the change of use. I received an email back from Kyle Ziebler that his staff is internally reviewing what we have submitted. And I also received a text from Deb Hogue as well, that she is reviewing it as well. So as soon as I receive any comments back from them, I will forward over to you for further review.
Yeah, you also had the review done by the Berks County Planning Commission as well. So that's another item that's checked off.
Great.
So it just seems like it's down to the zoning hearing board and the planning module.
Great. And just to speak real quickly, Jerome, on the parking spaces, we will designate that should a student purchase a vehicle, that they will be responsible for establishing a lease agreement with the parking area authority. It is our understanding and in talks with the university that students are not going to be given parking passes for the college, yet we all know that we cannot, in a perfect world, know that a student wouldn't go outside of this realm and purchase a car specifically for themselves. However, with further discussions with the college, it is their understanding and in discussions with the international director that these international students travel to and from campus via Alvernia's shuttle service if they need to go from the College Town campus to the main campus, and that their cars would be used consistently on weekends when they would go to visit other international students at other universities that they're with. So, I'd just like to speak to the current use as of the building is large commercial office space. We've had many counseling centers in the Berkshires building, consistent with the Hispano Center on the first floor, which services over 1,000 meals a day. And so we do not believe that the traffic would be impacted in any way by a student having to use a vehicle in the parking garage. They would still need to park their vehicle in the parking garage, walk to the building and to their designated apartment, consistent with a professional parking in the parking garage or finding off-street parking and having to walk to the building to work or eat during the day. So that is
Greg, if you can come up with a note to be placed on the plan to summarize all that, that'd be wonderful.
Okay, we can do that.
And just Jerome, consistent with parking relief, we're basically, and this is conversations that I've had with city officials, that we're basically asking for relief consistent with 100 South 4th Street in that regard. And the said city official also asked me to relay a message regarding the Downtown Plus study is currently being proposed to City Council, which examines the reduction of requirements for parking in the city and the consistent ratios. So I just was asked to relay that message as well.
I have
Jerome.
nothing further.
Jerome, it's Michelle. How are we with timing on this plan? Are we good?
We're fine. The plan was just resubmitted. So the 90-day clock will restart.
Okay, I just had it because I have to go to zoning hearing board. That was my concern.
Okay, yeah, it's on the zoning hearing board's docket. So I can't guarantee they're going to be issuing a decision, but we're still good, Michelle.
Okay, thank you.
And I see, is there any other comments from staff?
So this will be a tabled item.
Yeah, that's what I was going to suggest. Unlike, and I think Shannon will agree, that unlike with the one plan that we entertained at our special meeting before zoning was able to give their ruling because of pressure from the administration. But generally, the Planning Commission does not act until we hear from the zoning hearing board and they like how that they don't have any major changes to the plan. When I first came to the to the planning commission, we actually had zoning and the planning commission reversed. They came first in the month. And then we would see plans, they would go to zoning, and then they would get totally changed, and then they would have to come back to us. It was just a total mess. So, you know, I rather see this go through zoning, let them do their thing, and you know, then we can consider this for action.
Mr. Chairman, this is Will.
Yes, Will.
To add to your point, also under the subdivision land development ordinance, the zoning administrator must give some kind of comment to the planning office. So it would make sense, of course, that zoning rules first.
Yeah. So I just wanted to review that again, and also let Peter know how certain things how certain things have come about and why we do certain things that we do. So
Appreciate that.
excuse me.
Appreciate that.
Yep.
And any words of wisdom or understanding along the way are appreciated.
Very good. And with that, do I hear a motion to table the plan?
Mr. Chairman, this is Will. I'll offer that motion, but I just want to clarify one thing first, if I may. I appreciated the clarity on the floor numbering. That was the confusion because the plan says seven floors, 7 stories, but the applicant was referring to 8. And I believe, as our planning consultant said, referring to floor number 2 as the mezzanine is the right nomenclature, because I looked at the building and it's the southern half of the building has a high ceiling. It's only on the northern half is this extra floor. That's why it's a mezzanine. So under the same roof line, it's seven levels on one side, 7 stories, 8 levels on the other side. So I think 7 is correct. The plan is correct. But I appreciate that was cleared up. So I don't have anything else, and I didn't hear anything from colleagues. So I moved to table this plan for the Berkshire building until next month.
And do I hear a second? Okay, I'll go ahead and second that. Okay, any question on the motion? Including any comments from the commissioners, since I forgot to mention that. Okay, hearing none, I'll go for the vote. All those in favor of tabling the plan, say aye.
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 Okay, opposed? Very good. So we have tabled the plan until next month. Hopefully, hopefully we'll be able to see this next month after it goes through zoning.
Okay.
Thank you very much,
everybody.
Greg.
Yep. Have a good night.
Okay, thanks. Okay, next on list, we have the Habitat for Humanity final subdivision and land development plan at the Buttonwood Gateway.
Mr. Chairman, this is Lee Olson. I would like to, for the sake of transparency, announce by full disclosure that my firm is the architect of record for the Miltimore project for Habitat, and therefore I shall recuse myself from any commentary and will recuse myself and abstain from any voting. So I will turn off my microphone now.
Okay, thank you, Lee. And I'll turn this over to Jerome.
Okay, thank you. This plan has been around for some time. The final plan was approved by the Planning Commission. It's gone through reaffirmation a few times. The applicant has submitted a plan reaffirmation request for this project as well. But it appears that we're at the end of the line for this project in terms of compliance. The applicant has submitted the stormwater management agreements for each individual lot on the tract, since it's not going to be over, the stormwater management is not going to be covered over one area, it's going to be over multiple areas. So the stormwater management agreements have been submitted for that. The applicant has also asked for a waiver of section 515.309 and 515.601.b of the subdivision and land development ordinance, which is in regards to improvements agreements and performance guarantees. I'll let the applicant make that official request, and then Michelle can comment on that. Chuck, are you here?
This is Larry Grabowski with C2C Design Group. I'm filling in for Chuck.
Okay.
And we have a letter that we submitted on behalf of the applicant to get waivers of section 515.309 for the performance maintenance guarantee and section 515.601B for submission of improvements agreements. Give me 1 minute, there's a train in the background.
While the train's going in the background, the reason why the plan reaffirmation request has been submitted was because the 90-day time clock will be expiring today. Train's going by yet?
It's still going by. I think it's done blasting its horn. The purpose of the waiver request is the project was developed and managed by HUD and guaranteed by one of their programs. So since it's going to be funded by them, it's redundant to post performance guarantee and submit improvements guarantee. So that's the purpose for the waiver request.
Jerome, would you like me to provide
Yeah.
my comments? Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
The way that we interpret the saldo is that the authority to waive an improvements guarantee lies with City Council. I have shared this information with the city solicitor. I've not received a response, but we have no position on that, but we believe that's an action that has to be taken by City Council. Regarding an agreement itself, if City Council elects to waive the requirement for a guarantee, we would recommend that there still be some type of improvements agreement. Basic stuff that debris will be remained off the roads. They'll be responsible for any damage to the roads. They'll keep the site clean. Some that they have to submit a plan of record if that's required. Some very basic stuff. So that would be our recommendation, that if City Council elects to waive, and it may be, no, they're not meeting tonight, it's just a Cal meeting, elects to waive the financial guarantee, that we would recommend there still be a minimized, I'll use that term, improvements agreement executed. Since council action is required, Jerome is a little confused with the 90 days. Our position has always been that once a commission, in this case, has acted on a plan, reaffirmation can occur anytime thereafter, since they do have plan approval. But if it is the practice to require another request for time extension, I would ask that be given so that City Council can consider the waiver.
The only reason I brought it up was it seems that this was done at least 2 other times on this project.
Okay.
So if we didn't clarify the municipal improvements issue tonight, then the reaffirmation would need to be considered.
Or time extension. Well, no, not a time extension. It could, because it already has plan approval.
Yeah, that's where the plan reaffirmation comes in.
If you did reaffirmation, I would make a condition on resolution of those issues.
Okay.
If this commission desires, they could make a recommendation to city council regarding waiver of the guarantee. And then
And
you
Mr.
could act on the requirements for an improve that the actual improvements agreement would be within your purview.
Yeah,
That's
Mr.
my,
Chi-
I'm
no,
sorry,
go
city,
ahead. Go-
city solicitor
ahead.
may feel differently, but that's how that's my position at this time.
Mhm. And Mr. Chairman, this is Tim. If I may comment on that, yeah, I think that's a good comment from Michelle that we should, I think, as a body here, make a recommendation to City Council. I think just having them make it blindly wouldn't be fair to them. And this is a very unusual. It's a very unique request for this kind of project because, as you know, the city Public Works is doing something different in this area that we don't typically do in the city, and that is we are making improvements in the right of way to include not only paving the streets and some of the utilities, but we're also doing curbs and sidewalks and street trees and pretty much everything that you see on that list in 515-602 required improvements in the right of way. The city is in the process now of doing some of those. The question is how many, and I think the answer to that question is it depends on who gets there first. It depends on the schedule. Right now, the city has a designer in place doing a full streetscaping on Miltimore, on Gordon, Lafayette, and Topahakan streets. We're not doing Buttonwood. There is some sidewalks out there on Buttonwood, and we weren't planning on that. That doesn't mean we wouldn't, but all of the things you see on the drawing here that would be in the right of way, you see some shading for the curb and the sidewalk. There may be some street trees, I'm not sure. Driveway aprons, those kinds of things could maybe be in the city's plan, including sanitary sewer laterals, because the schedule right now is the underground improvements, and that would be with the sewer and the storm sewer. We would like to have those designed and go into construction this year. So if the developer would request, and again, it's up to their schedule, if it would work out in their schedule that they would want the city to install capped sewers for these units, we may be able to work that in. That would be one of the items on the required improvements. Normally, a developer would do that. In this case, since we've got a project in place for this year's construction season, the city could be, we could include that in the work. So I don't know about the HUD backing. That seems like a legal thing, but the argument, if I were in Larry Grabowski's place, the argument I would make is the city is already planning on doing much, if not all, of the required improvements. And that could be, in fact, we would want to do them. If the developer was not going to do the water laterals, the sewer lateral, any underground improvement on this project, we would want to do that as the city because we don't want to have to dig up brand new streets and sidewalks and curbs, maybe next year. So Larry, I would say to you, it would be good for us to get together on scheduling. When does Habitat expect to do the improvements? When do they want water and sewer connections and any other underground? And when do they want the driveway aprons? Do you know the schedule for that, Larry?
No, I do not, but I can find out.
Yeah, I don't think Chuck did either. But the fact that nothing has happened so far, it would be a matter of, is it going to happen this year, this construction season? If it is, then I may not be in a position to agree with a waiver. If it's going to be next year, and I'm not even in a position tonight to say that, but because we have to coordinate where that, when those improvements are intended to occur. I can only say that our schedule is to have those occur this year. So if the schedule works out and the uniqueness of this, the way it's working into the city's program, Public Works may be in favor of supporting your waiver request. The only thing that would not fit into the required improvements would be the stormwater management items that are located on the lots. But then we have separate stormwater management agreements for those, which could be covered under those agreements. So there may be some, some reason here, at least from Public Works standpoint, to offer a recommendation for the waiving of the improvements agreement. I don't know, Michelle, if you think that would be appropriate from at least that point of view.
I think if you can work out the timing. I was not aware of that when I made my recommendation. And again, I just looked at it from the legal perspective as to what this commission's authority was under these circumstances.
Right. And I would think if it weren't under those circumstances, and I don't understand the thing about the HUD, I don't know that Public Works would be in a position to recommend a waiver, because then we would have to waive everybody else's. But this is a unique situation.
Let me ask you regarding the HUD, I understand they're financing and supporting this, but is there any type of document that you could share with the city that they are guaranteeing the funds that these improvements will be done?
Larry, is there some kind of a guarantee, written guarantee that you're referring to?
I'm not aware of any written guarantee.
Michelle,
may
are you referring to the funding itself for the project?
If the funding includes the improvements, yes.
I'm looking for a reference email. So I'm just going off of an email from Jamal Abdallah, Director of Community Development Services, and that's where he said that the project developed and managed by the Habitat for Humanity is guaranteed by the HUD Home Program. Approximately $1.5 million have been pledged to Habitat through 2022 and 2023 to construct 8 residential units. A copy of the commitment letter, along with the City Council endorsed action plan, can be made part of the records and introduced to Planning Commission in lieu of financial surety.
So he may have documents.
That's correct.
When you're saying 8, I'm counting 11 on this plan.
And I'm just reading from his email.
So I think that's something else that needs to be clarified. Are they guaranteeing? He said 8, but there's 11 shown on this plan.
Yeah, I mean, that'll need to be clarified then.
That mean they're looking for other sources of funding for the remaining 3?
I think it's unclear now, but I would not recommend any waiver of financial security unless we have a guarantee for all 11.
Well, I don't think we are making a waiver for this anyway, are we?
No, but I mean, it's to City Council.
Okay.
So at this point, Michelle, you're thinking that we shouldn't make any, we shouldn't do any action on the waivers at all.
I mean, you could do it, but make a conditional resolution of these issues.
And you're just basically looking for a recommendation to council because they are the ones who actually need to waive.
That is my reading. and in discussions with others in my office, that is our reading of the saldo, that has to come from city council. Again, I'd asked Fred Latchett to weigh in and did not hear back from him.
Very good.
So there's two, from my perspectives, there's two issues. It's actually be the waiver of the financial part of the security. And then and then if there would be an improvements agreement, what we could do is an improvements agreement, we could have them sign that should financial security fall through and or the city not be performing the improvements they shall at that time, provide financial security. And an amount to be determined. I think at a minimum, if city council waives this, there should be some type of improvements agreement done. Again, it could be very minor, but simply like Tim said, if there's any utilities, the utilities need to be connected before anything's paved. Make sure they're not bringing debris out onto the roads. Make sure they're keeping the roads clean. It could be a very de minimis agreement if the financial security is waived. Any requirement for them to provide as-bills. We would just want to document any of those requirements.
I don't see any need for an as-built plan on this.
Okay. I can't think right now off the top what actually your agreements say regarding such things, but it could be a very de minimis agreement if the financial security is waived.
Yeah, Michelle, I think that's a really good idea to have an agreement anyway, because it should stipulate that this is what the city's going to do. Like I had mentioned, right now, the scope of work for the city's project does not include Buttonwood. And if you look at the plan that we're looking at here, there's a little piece of sidewalk and curb, maybe a couple of street trees out there. And I don't know that I can necessarily roll that in because it wasn't included in the original grant and it wasn't included in our scope to our consultant. I could try, but we need to get a request from the developer for that. If not, I think what the developer, what Habitat is looking for is a reduction in the cost. I don't think they're looking to try to get out of a developer's agreement. They're just trying to reduce the amount of the cost and maybe the responsibility for the installation. So maybe if we could reduce it to just what's on Buttonwood Street, or to reduce it to something that's more manageable, maybe that's something they'd be agreeable to. But I agree with you. I think there should be some sort of an agreement so that we understand what the city intends to do and when, and what the developer intends to do and when. There's also the alley, that's also shaded there too, if you notice on the drawing. The alley is not in a city right of way. That's semi-private, and we're going to need an agreement from those abutting owners, most of which is the Habitat, if not all of them. I forget how many of them. I think the majority of those are Habitat. So we're going to need an agreement for them, for the city to go in there and do that improvement on the alley. Those kinds of things would have to be included in this agreement. But I think the idea of doing an agreement with that type of stipulation would be a good idea.
And I think we also, I mean, you raised a good point too, things like the planter boxes. Is that something that HUD is including in their funding?
You're talking about the stormwater stuff?
You said something about planter boxes, minor things like that.
Well, I was talking about oh, you mean street trees?
Street trees, yes, I'm sorry.
Street tree, yeah, right. Yeah, those would be the ones on Buttonwood, because the city is planning on doing full streetscape. That's everything within the right of way, including street trees on Miltimore, not Buttonwood. At least at this time, that's the way it is.
And Wayne, you're better at historical knowledge than I am, but going way back, I know when Habitat built a few houses, and I can't recall where they were, but I was still in-house with the city. We did require them to post a letter of credit.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember where that was. but yeah. But that, that was their money.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I'm kind of wondering too, because this difference between the 8 and 11, if HUD's only guaranteeing 8, we still need guarantee for 3 of them. So, it kind of seems to me that this needs to be worked out a little bit better and then brought back to us. I don't know if you agree with that, Michelle, but
No, I think there are some outstanding questions. I would like for the commission to have a say. I mean, you could, I know they want to keep this project moving forward.
Mhm.
You could make a motion, whatever you desire to council, and make a condition on resolution of these issues.
all right. Very good. Any other comments from staff?
Mr. Chairman, maybe the way to approach this is to put that in the condition, handle the reaffirmation of the plan, and then as a condition of the reaffirmation of the plan, clarification of funding, the municipal improvements, and waiver requests for financial security would need to be resolved.
Okay, that sounds good.
And if you want to, if the commission wants to put a position in front of council that upon resolution of these issues, they would recommend or not recommend waiver of the financial security.
Okay. Very good. Any comments from the commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, this is Will.
Okay, well,
I think you're thinking perhaps, as before I was on the commission, of some homes that Habitat for Humanity built in Glenside.
so I think those are the ones I'm thinking of. Those were built across the street from Pollock's storage area. That actually the Pollocks actually own those lots, and they turned them over to Habitat.
I just thought it would be a good idea for the sake of our new colleagues, as well as for the public, to explain just very briefly what we're talking about. This is the redevelopment housing project in the northwest part of the city, just north of the Buttonwood Street Bridge, that Habitat for Humanity is proposing, that is separate from a much larger redevelopment project that is currently underway, I've noticed, which we had already approved, just so that's clear for everybody. And I don't have any comments or questions or anything. I would certainly defer to the staff recommendation.
Anyone else of the commissioners?
Yeah, this is Peter Wright. Yeah, I'm somewhat aware of Habitat's activity. They do have some other projects, individual houses in this community here. And I generally am familiar with what they're trying to accomplish. I'm curious, that the city, if the city was to do this, streetscaping improvement project, that would normally be part of the scope of the developer. How is it? Shouldn't there be some sort of agreement? And this essentially what amounts to a cost sharing of the site development activity. Shouldn't that be agreed to up front so that we don't get into this situation where each party is not sure what the other's doing? Have it be somewhat of a...
Good question, Peter. Yes, the developer would normally guarantee 110% of the cost of the improvements.
Mm-hmm. So it's great that there's a partnership and Habitat does good work. And of course, they have very limited resources, so the city's willing to, or was planning anyway, to do part of that scope of work. That's great. Just have to figure out a way to put that in writing, make an agreement, I suppose.
Yeah, Peter, just to give you a little background to it, there's another developer currently finishing up their development on Gordon Street. You can see Gordon Street on this plan up there, just to the bottom of the plan on the west side. And same situation occurred there, where they ended up actually doing their improvements because the city was still in the process of even hiring a consultant to do the overall and coordinating with the utilities and that. And it was taking us longer. Our schedule was dragged out compared to they wanted to get their improvement done. They wanted to do it. So they did the improvements in the right of way. There'll be additional improvements on Gordon, but they wanted to get theirs going, and they went ahead with it. They had an improvements agreement with their escrow, and they did what they needed to do to get their improvement project going. The difference here is that Habitat now is now starting to align with our schedule. Now that we have something on board and we have a more or less a definitive schedule, now it's time to get together and see if we can coordinate. I don't know how to put that into an agreement, or if an agreement is necessary. Maybe it is, but definitely the engineers, Larry and Chuck with C2C representing Habitat, and the rest of us on our side should get together and schedule. In fact, I'm sending an email right now off to those guys we can get together and talk about schedules and how we can make this thing happen. If Habitat wants to build this year, then I'm not going to recommend that we go with a waiver. However, if they can wait till next year, and I'm talking about middle of next year, because we still have to design the street improvements too. We're intending on building these above ground right-of-way improvements, streetscape improvements next year. And if that works out, then perhaps, the two projects will work together. But it's a matter of scheduling. It's more a matter of construction scheduling. And we don't want to get in the way of Habitat from doing their work. And I don't want, Habitat to say, well, the city, you didn't do yours, so we can't start. I guess that's the thing, is we don't want to encumber, the city doesn't want to encumber Habitat from starting their project and getting things done if the city can't get their project up and installed ahead of theirs. That's where the real issue comes down to.
Right, I think with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask for a motion for a recommendation to council to waive the performance maintenance guarantee that would normally be required of Habitat for Humanity for those structures that are being guaranteed by the by HUD, the Department of Housing and Urban Development. Do I hear a motion to that effect?
Mr. Chairman, this is Nelson De Leon, so move.
Okay, Nelson, and do I hear a second?
I'll second.
This is Peter. I'll second it.
Okay, thank you, Peter. I did hear you, Will, but
It's okay, let him do it. Get into minutes for the first time, that's good.
yeah. And then that way we don't have to put a number on things. And then that would also still require a guarantee from Habitat for Humanity on the other units.
Mr. Chairman, does this also include the reaffirmation of the project?
No, this is just the recommendation to council.
Okay.
Any other questions on the motion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, very good. And we have one abstention, of course. Lee abstains. Very good. Okay. Are there any other comments on this plan before we ask for the vote of the reaffirmation?
This is just a minor thing. This is Bob Conklin. Is this a revised plan that we're looking at, or is this still the plan of 2021?
2021, and it appears you approved the plan.
Right. It's like for unit 9 and where their parking is, there's a retaining wall holding the earth back to the parking area. And I believe one of my comments was that there should be a stair access there so that they don't have to trespass to get into their back door where you see the steps going into the unit. And I just don't see that. I know it's something very, very minor. But I think if that adjacent landowner ever puts up a fence, there's going to be a little bit of a talk between the neighbors there.
Between 8 and 9.
Unit 9 to their parking, which is in the alley.
It's behind behind unit 9. It's one of those parallel spaces. And I think you're talking about that curved line, that retaining wall in the backyard. Yeah.
Yes.
It's a good comment.
That is part of lot 9, by the way.
Right, but if that's constructed as a retaining wall and doesn't give you easy access to the unit, they're either gonna go in the alley to walk around the retaining wall, then walk all the way back, or they're just gonna trespass. If it was me, I'd be trespassing.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, just show a set of stairs, that's all.
Should we, do you believe we should add that to the conditions, Jerome? Or can we?
I'll note it in the minutes,
Okay, that's great.
and then yeah, we could take that, and then Mr. Grabowski can then make that modification.
Okay, very good. And with that, do I hear a motion to, one more clarification. This is a reaffirmation because this plan has not been recorded yet?
Correct.
Okay. With that, do I hear a motion to reaffirm the plan for Habitat for Humanity, the Miltimore Street revitalization at the Buttonwood Gateway?
This is Bob Conklin. I'd like to make a motion to make a reaffirmation of the plan.
And a
Mr.
second? Yes, Michelle?
I would just say, Jerome, there was discussions about some conditions on the reaffirmation that I believe included in part requiring an improvements agreement.
Yeah, and I think we took care of those in the previous recommendation.
Oh, I thought, well, it was my understanding that the prior motion was only as to the financial guarantee, not the agreement itself.
That is correct. This motion, it includes the 4 or 5 things that Jerome had noted, including the need for at least a minimal improvements agreement, and there were a few other conditions.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify.
Okay. And with that, Bob, do you agree to the amendment to the motion?
Yes, please.
Okay. And do I hear a second on that amended motion? Okay, I will go ahead and second that. All right. Any other question to the motion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, and then, of course, we have the one abstention. Very good. We have a reaffirmed plan and recommendation to council. And I think we're clear on that an improvements agreement will be needed once all the engineers have their little powwow. And with that, thanks to C2C for their presentation, and we'll move on to the next.
Thank you.
Next thing on our agenda, which is the Scott Street subdivision plan. And
Did you have?
oh no, I'm sorry, I skipped one. The Hope Rescue Mission plan, the final land development plan for the Hope Rescue Mission. And I'll turn this over to Jerome.
Okay, great. This is another plan we haven't seen in a while. It has been submitted as a revised final plan. There are some issues that still need to be resolved. The applicant has taken care of some of those from the previous application that was submitted and reviewed. As you're aware, that this plan did receive zoning hearing board approval back in July 10th, 2019. They've also received accessory use building permits associated with the site. And moving on, the issues that still need to be resolved on the plan include financial security, some notes to be added to the plan with regarding to vision obstruction. The curbs and sidewalks were previously determined to be in fair condition, and we asked the Public Works verify that and determine if they would like to see the curbs and sidewalks included within the municipal improvements agreement. The plans were previously submitted for the stormwater management review to Public Works for review and consideration. The erosion and sedimentation control was submitted to the County Conservation District. Public Works Department should verify if the stormwater management and plan and the agreement are satisfactory. I do not think the applicant has submitted a stormwater management agreement as of yet. Other than that, the other items on here are for cleanup. The plan has been reviewed by the Berks County Planning Commission. Tim, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I believe that all of those off-site improvements, curbs, sidewalks, driveway entrances, we already went through that and approved it. The stormwater management plan, my recollection is that was already approved. I don't remember if we got a stormwater management agreement and a cost estimate. I have to go back and look, but I don't remember seeing that.
No, Tim, you haven't seen that yet. Habitat, I'll just say Habitat now has the funding either in place or it's about to be imminent, which is why the plan's back in front of the Planning Commission. So you'll see those various agreements very soon.
You mean Hope Rescue?
I'm sorry, that's
Yeah.
me.
I think I know what you meant. Yep, good. Okay,
Yeah,
it's good to
yeah,
hear.
Hope Rescue has got their funding. They either have it in place or they're at the 1 yard line. With respect to the improvements agreement, though, Tim, does it cover more than just the public right of way?
It's a good question. If you look at the ordinance, it's pretty much everything that's in the right of way. I guess, you're going to use the existing, remind me, you're going to use the existing sewer connection, water connections, or you doing new connections there?
Yeah, there'll be a few things in the right of way. There'll be some new utility connections. They'll be closing off a driveway, actually modifying a driveway, I'm sorry. So there is some work in the public right of ways of the two streets, but not a whole lot. But if the improvements agreement just covers that, that's fine. That shouldn't be a whole lot of money anyway.
I mean, I'll let Michelle speak to it, but I mean, when I read the ordinance 515-602 is required improvements, And there you see, basically, it enumerates and describes the items that you would typically find in the right of way, streets and street lights and curbs and sidewalks, things like that.
That's the way it was always under Charlie as well. That's
Right. And now stormwater management throws in a new level, which we would normally roll into as required improvements, because that's kind of the way you read it in that ordinance. So we usually roll that into required improvements.
But if the stormwater is just the actual stormwater facilities, the big thing for the site is going to be on-site paving. So if the on-site private paving is not part of the improvements agreement, I think it shouldn't be an issue preparing our improvements agreement.
Yeah, unless there's something specially dictated that, on the agreement for this particular plan. No, usually it's not. The on-site paving is usually not considered a public improvement.
And the reason I bring that up for the planning commission was that Hope Rescue was looking to get a waiver of their public improvements escrow, but I'm sorry, their escrow, but I was under the impression the escrow may cover everything, but if it only covers public improvements and then the stormwater improvements, that's not going to be a whole lot of money to escrow. So I think that's probably going to be okay.
Again, I'll let Michelle comment, but I think from the point of public works, that's what we're looking for.
Yeah, the stormwater facilities to make sure they're constructed properly, any ENS during
Yes.
construction.
ENS.
Yeah.
Correct.
And anything, which it would be in the right of way, of course, would be anything that was going to be dedicated to the
No
city.
problem. Okay.
And Tom also had gotten confirmation from Fire and Rescue with respects to the ability to serve the property with fire protection measures and to demonstrate that the fire hydrants were within the proximity that's specified by Fire and Rescue. So they received confirmation on that.
And the rest of the comments in Jerome's letter will comply with. I didn't see anything in there that we can't handle with a few notes.
Yeah, just for the new planning commission members, if I skip through some of those comments, it's because those were rather simple items to correct, but they just need to be dot your i's, cross your t's before the plan's brought back. So it looks like this project can be tabled.
Well, can we just get, does it have to be reaffirmed, Jerome, or?
According to my notes, did I provide you that?
I don't.
We never approved this plan, so this is still good. We don't have to reaffirm approval. It's my understanding of this is just going to be a time extension then.
Well, I would ask for approval as conditioned upon your letter, because if you're talking with a few notes, I think a final approval would make sense. It's conditioned upon that on your notes, on your letter.
That's an option.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking about that. I just wanted Michelle's opinion if we should receive the is it the stormwater
Management agreement is submitted typically around the same time the municipal improvements agreement is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was just looking, if the letter does not provide for the stormwater management agreement, I would make sure.
And that's in the.
Very good. Any other comments from staff? Any comments from the commissioners?
So this is Peter. I'm just trying to get up to speed here. They're basically repurposing an existing structure. Is that the intent here?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's more than just repurposing, because they're gonna, really gut it, and there's some roof work going on, and I'm not sure I'd call it a facade, but some new front entrance. So it's a little more than just, repurposing. They are rehabbing the whole building, but essentially it's the building you see there today with some new parking.
Mm-hmm.
And the subdivision.
And a subdivision, correct. I'm sorry, you're right.
Yeah, and the building we're talking about is, of course, the Hope Rescue Mission Store on North Sixth Street across from, get the name of the bar off the top of my head. But
The Waldorf, I think it is. I
yeah, the
forget.
Waldorf.
The
There it is.
Waldorf.
Nelson got it, the Waldorf.
Good food.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Because it has been a little while since we've seen this plan. Any other comments from the commissioners? Okay, and with that, do I hear a motion for conditional final approval? Granted that all the comments on Jerome's letter from February 18th are satisfied, and that the final plan is satisfactory to staff.
This is Bob Conklin. I'd like to make a motion to conditionally approve the plan according to Hawk Valley's letter, February 18th, including item number 9, which is the stormwater management plan and erosion and sediment control plan. Number 10 is a municipal improvements agreement.
Thank you, Bob. And do I hear a second?
Yes, Lee Olson will second.
Okay, thank you, Lee. Is there a question on the motion? All those in favor of conditional final approval, say aye.
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 And opposed? Very good. Tom can move ahead with this, and then hopefully they can start this soon. It's going to be an exciting project.
Thank you.
Okay. Next on the list is, now we will talk about the Scott Street subdivision plan, and I'll turn this over to Jerome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the plan you saw last year as well. This would be revision number 2 to the project. Our review letter is dated February 19th, 2022. As you may recall, this is 2 separate lots that are located along Scott Street. They will be each subdivided to include 2 unit developments, which are semi-detached units on both of the lots. So there'll be a total of 4 units, 2 on each lot. You see the proposal that has been submitted. There are some still outstanding issues that we need to resolve. The applicant has resolved a lot of the other ones that were previously issued. Let's start with the first one, which Shannon will have to probably bring her in. This is with regards to the sidewalks. Sidewalks were previously waived, and that was part of the subdivision land development plan requirements. However, the section of 600-1505 of the zoning ordinance still applies. And I asked Shannon to take a look at this and review some of Dave Paris's notes and provide her opinion based upon her. She is the zoning administrator.
Good evening. Nice to see you all. Yes, so the zoning ordinance basically states that pedestrian sidewalks are required in front of pedestrian entrances to buildings. And so sidewalks are required in this instance. And so if the applicant chooses not to put in sidewalks, I see that there's not other sidewalks immediately adjacent to these properties, then the applicant has the ability to request a variance.
make a statement here?
Sure.
I work for McCarthy, represent the plans, and we would actually would like to take the waiver request off and add a note for deferred to later for like whenever the city would require the rest of the block to install sidewalks, we would install them at that time.
So I'm not gonna comment on the planning commission's view on that. I'm commenting on the zoning issue. And so once again, the sidewalks per the zoning ordinance are required. And
We understand that. That's
Okay.
why we're gonna put, instead of going through the zoning hearing board and all that, we would just ask if we put a note on there that, yes, we will install the sidewalks when the city requires or everybody else in the block is doing it, we would also do them at that time also.
so I hear what you're saying, but it sounds like you want to delay putting in the sidewalks. So in order to get a zoning permit, you would either have to put in the sidewalks or get a variance. Unfortunately, that's how the zoning ordinance reads today.
Okay. Or to later. If we put them in now, let's put them in now, either that or get a zone.
Correct.
Thank you, Shannon. Going over the rest of the review, the driveway grades, we noticed that there was a slight error. That
And we
would
will
need to
fix
be
that.
corrected. Excuse me?
We will fix that.
Okay. Were there any items on this review letter? There was some that were relevant to stormwater management. It's my understanding with Crystal.
We agree to do everything that's on your list. The one question I had was about the sidewalk, but we took care of that now. We agree to do the stormwater change, the 3 to 3 instead of 3 to 1. Anything else? Yeah, we agreed to do.
Okay. So I think your next stop then is to go to Shannon for the zoning variance application, and she can schedule you in for that review. We've also had a similar situation with this last year, and Shannon's opinion is similar to Dave Paris's opinion from the past. So it's not like it's doing something that's different.
And we're gonna talk to the developer, Mr. Billman, and we might just put the sidewalks in instead of going through the zoning.
And I know, Sean, it's gonna look odd that you're the only one on the block with the sidewalks.
That's, and Sean, that would be fine. Public Works would be fine with that, but to make things work better, it would be good if you could show that in the grading then that would need to occur.
If we're gonna show the sidewalks, we will fix the grading and everything else that goes along with it.
Okay, very good.
All right, then that would be it.
And then Sean, this is Bob Conklin. We have in the past waived sidewalks, but said that there would be a statement on the drawings that if, sidewalks were enacted throughout the full block, that they were required to be done for the new lots as well. I don't know if it's a good idea for you to ask the same waiver of zoning. This way it's less of a hassle, quote unquote, to request. But that's your decision and your developer's decision, but it's a great suggestion.
And if that it would answer all your questions, at this time, I would like to request a conditional approval based on drones meeting all the drones comments.
We are down to relatively small things to be resolved. There will
Jerome,
be-
is this final plan? I'm sorry. Is this
It's
for
a-
final plan?
It's a preliminary / final plan.
Oh, okay, preliminary final. Yeah, because we still don't have planning models yet.
Those,
Yeah, I sent those to Craig. He's got all the stuff now from the city.
and he
So
said
now-
he was sending them in today. I was
Right,
told he was sending them in today.
to the DEP?
Yes,
Okay,
that was his Jerome comment number 5, I believe, about the sewer.
sewer modules.
Like his number 8 for the erosion control. We have approved letter from the Conservation District dated 6/21 of last year.
Yes, they do. Hey, I have no objection to the to granting the final plan approval subject to these comments.
And provided the sidewalks are installed and a variance is not required.
Correct.
Rome, I do have one question on your number 9. A utility easement traversing the property or the alley located within the rear?
Yeah,
Is that through what you're asking there? There's no utilities that we are aware of. Everything else is out on Scott.
yeah, I was talking about in the alley in the back.
I know there's nothing back there.
Okay,
The city has sent me, as far as the water, the sewer, UGI with the gas, everything is out front, electric's out front. So I just wanted to verify what you meant by number 9.
I'll re-verify that, and Sean, if there is something out there that we missed, then just ignore that comment. It was in the rear, though.
I was looking at our survey shots and I was thinking, well, maybe I forgot to show poles back there, but there were no shots. And when I look on the aerial, there doesn't appear to be anything back there, but
As I recall, this it's an unimproved alley, it's grass.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'll double check.
okay.
Let me just make a. Okay. Any other comments from the commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, this is Will. Just one clarification. Everything for the record that was said about sidewalks necessarily also includes curbs.
I think there are curbs here.
There are already curbs. I can't remember because it was a long time ago. We waived the sidewalks. Okay, so they already are curbs and are they in good condition?
Sean, is that correct?
Yeah, I believe they are.
As far as
Okay,
I know,
great.
they're good condition, and then we would be, of course, putting in the concrete aprons for the 2 driveways.
Right.
Yeah, there are curbs.
Okay, great.
Very good. And with that, do I hear a motion to grant conditional final approval for the Scott Street subdivision plan at 1325 and 1341 Scott Street, with the condition that all the comments on Hawk Valley's February 19th review letter are taken care of to the satisfaction of staff, and that the issue of the sidewalks is resolved.
This is Lee Olson. I will make that motion as stated.
And do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Will. All right, any question on the motion? Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. There we go.
Thank you.
Very good, thank you. All right, and now We are going on to Centro Hispano project. They are asking for a land development plan waiver.
Mr. Chairman, this is Lee Olson again. I need to, in full disclosure and full transparency, inform the Planning Commission that my firm is the architect of record for the project. So I will recuse myself from any conversation and I will abstain from any voting. So I will again mute my microphone and I will turn off my video.
Okay, thank you, Lee. And I'll turn it over to Jerome.
Okay, thank you. Centro Hispano is looking to relocate their facilities from 5th and Washington Street to 2nd and Washington Streets. They will be doing some other things as far as community service to the community services within the city of Reading. I'd like to introduce Mike Toledo to give an explanation or to expand upon what the intent of the uses are and where the areas that they plan on occupying within this new facility at 2nd and Washington. And when I say new facility, it's an existing building located at 2nd and Washington.
Thank you, Jerome. Good evening, everyone. The Centro Hispano has served our greater Reading community for over 55 years. It's the primary agency that supports the growing population. There are many needs through collaborative initiatives designed to enable individuals and families to improve the quality of life. Every day, the Hispanic Center's core programs serve about 1,800 members of our community whose access to existing resources are either restricted or curtailed by language, cultural barriers, lack of information, or lack of transportation. The Centro Hispano serves as a cultural and linguistic intermediary for many organizations and government agencies in our community whose own services to the Latino community and the region as a whole would be adversely affected by the loss of the Centro Hispano's assistance and coordination. Our central goal, is to focus our programs and engage and strengthen families from toddlers to our senior citizens. For the last 22 years, we've provided these services, as Jerome mentioned, at the Berkshire Building, which was mentioned earlier tonight in this meeting, at 5th and Washington. And we're very excited about the opportunity to continue to serve our community in the heart of the downtown at 2nd and Washington at the Boscov Plaza. The main programming that will be taking place at the Boscov Plaza is our Casa de la Amistad, which translates to Friendship House. It's our senior center, and it's one of the largest senior centers in the state. At our senior center, we provide programs and services for our seniors, our 60 years of age and older, and we do, social services, health and wellness, education, but mostly we do food service. Our food service consists of congregate meals, those seniors that will come to us and eat in a senior center setting, and Meals on Wheels. We are the vendor for Meals on Wheels. So we prepare meals at our site. And then those meals are delivered to our partners at Berks Encore, where they will then distribute the meals that we prepare throughout the city of Reading. So, from that's the work that we do in our senior center, and that will be the work that we plan to do at the new location at 2nd and Washington. During the pandemic, we prepared and served over 255,000 meals through our food service programs. At the Boscov Plaza, which we are currently looking to provide our work in, it was a restaurant, a Panavino restaurant, providing food service to paying customers. What we will be doing is providing food service, but at no cost to our seniors and other underserved segments of our community as I mentioned, either in a congregate setting or through community partners like Berks Encore that I mentioned, the Olivet Boys and Girls Club, the BCIU, et cetera. So, our use of the space is very similar to what was done prior in the restaurant. The difference being we're not charging. The program is available at no cost to our community, to those that qualify. Jerome, is there anything more, any questions that maybe you have for?
That's perfect. That's perfect background. Now, when a plan like this comes to the city zoning office as well as the planning office, there are some things we take a look at, and this is a change of use per se. And as part of that change of use, we have to assess whether or not a minor land development plan will be required. So some of the issues that we look at are a comparison of the existing and proposed use, and they're generally consistent with the previous use as described. The next thing we look at is zoning compliance. The site's located within the CC zoning district, and the civic center use or civic uses are permitted by right. And so were the previous uses that were associated with this project. So no special exception or conditional use application is required. We then look at site impacts that are related to the change of use. Are there going to be any significant traffic changes with vehicle or pedestrian traffic? Will there be any building improvements? There will be some internal renovations occurring with this project, but it's our understanding that the exterior building improvements, they will not expand the building envelope any further. We also understand that there is going to be no stormwater management impacts or disturbance activities, and that the utility impacts may be minor or considered a wash, considering that it was a restaurant use in the past. We'll have to look at water usage just to verify everything, but it should be a wash on that as well. So, based upon those criteria, we looked at it from the planning office, and we also compared notes with the zoning office. And we would recommend a waiver of the land development plan. We would recommend that the zoning permit reflect the use and the occupancy of the property. The building permit will need to focus on the internal building renovations that are going to be required. That's all I have. Shannon, do you have anything further?
No, I don't. You covered it. Thank you.
Mike, did I cover everything?
Yes, you did, Jerome. Thank you.
Then I'll leave it up to the planning commission then. By the way, we would make the recommendation to recommend that the minor land development plan requirement be granted.
Well, I'm sorry, Jerome, what was that?
My office is making a recommendation that the requirements for a minor land development plan would be waived.
Yeah, okay. Any comments from, I guess the only other staff member here is Tim and Michelle, right? So,
yeah, and Wayne, I would agree with what Jerome just said. It appears as though that you had a restaurant there. Actually, it's the entire building, because I think, Jerome, it's one lot, right? The whole parking, 69 News, the whole thing is one lot, I believe.
Yes.
So the planning would have been approved for the lot, and I'll verify with Deb Hogue, our manager of utilities, just to ensure. I'm pretty sure we got a planning module for that, because that wasn't that long ago. That was probably not even 20 years ago when this was built. I think we would have a planning module for that, and I would guess it would have been sufficient to cover all of that. So I agree with you, Jerome. I think it's a wash. It's going to be a wash for the sewer modules.
Yeah,
I doubt that we would need any sewer modules for this.
Yeah,
I was I was with the city, yeah, I was gonna say, Wayne, I was with the city when this occurred, and that was gonna be my only comment, is making sure if there's any water, sewage, additional uses.
Okay. Very good. Any comments from the commissioners?
Yeah, this is
Chairman,
Peter.
this is Will.
Okay.
Did we,
Go
did we
ahead, Will,
receive,
Then we'll let
did
Peter
we-
talk.
I'm sorry?
Go ahead, Will, and then, Peter's next.
Oh, okay, I didn't hear that, sorry. Did we receive any documentation on this? Since I don't remember seeing any.
Yes, the zoning permit was issued, was submitted.
Yeah, but
Was-
we
I mean,
didn't
was something
receive
sent-
anything by email.
Yeah, I don't think we got anything from you, Jerome, but it seems like a pretty simple project, so.
Yeah, the reason
Yeah,
why the reason why there was nothing submitted to you or to the city for this project is because the zoning permit was submitted, and as part of the zoning permit application, we discussed whether or not a minor land development plan would be necessary.
When did this come up?
Within the past month. So what you're looking at on the screen is what was submitted as part of the the zoning permit.
Yeah, I'm on the phone, so I don't see that. I have a Log City policy. I do not vote on anything that I haven't seen to review. I don't see an application or anything. I would, defer to the staff's judgment normally. But I don't think that's good government to do that. I mean, so there was not an application, was there an application for a waiver, I guess is what I'm asking. Or just a discussion?
Just a discussion, Will.
Okay. But does the application, I mean, what is the normal process for a waiver? Is that made by the applicant?
Yes.
Does it have to be in writing? Is there an advance notice, or could it be done at the meeting orally?
I'll let Michelle handle that one.
Okay, yeah, that's a procedural legal question. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't have the ordinance up in front of me, particularly for the city. In the majority of my jurisdictions, there is some type of request in writing.
What we had, Will, is just a series of emails that were distributed back and forth.
To Will's point, I think there is an application to waive land development somewhere in the city files.
An application to the planning commission, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, I believe so.
But somehow, I mean, I'm not putting anybody in the spot, but somehow it didn't come to us. But do you believe, Mr. Chairman, the applicant did make the application?
No, actually, I'm not sure. This might have been something that staff has come to recommend because of the questions with our new ordinance. Would this require a minor land development?
That's where we're saying, no, we don't believe it does.
If it doesn't rise to the need of having a land development plan, then it doesn't rise to the need of having a waiver either. So,
Yeah, you could view that. I mean, that's definitely a way to view. We were just making sure that if other applicants have seen what was done with the change of use, we just wanted to make sure we were clear and on the record that there was going to be no impacts that are associated with the proposal from the existing to proposed use, the zoning compliance, and then the site improvements itself.
Is it the position of the staff that a waiver request is not necessary, because this is an ministerial judgment that it is not necessary, and this was really just for discussion and background purposes this evening? I'm trying to throw a lifeline here.
I'm just trying to, Will, I'm just trying to cover every angle of this.
Right.
I guess procedurally, you do not need a waiver, but somewhere along the line, the zoning staff is gonna have to like note why a minor land development plan was not required.
I understand. I appreciate that. I just, as soon as it's clear, I have, some experience at public service and have seen, public officials take votes and get burned when they approve something and didn't know what they were approving. And I would never vote for such things. I would get criticized for doing that, and it would be put in the paper, and political people would criticize it. And Mr. Toledo knows full well what I'm talking about because he was part of that, and nitpicking votes and whatever. But it's done because, as public officials, we should know exactly what we're voting on. That's why I make this point, which I've never had to bring up before with planning, which I can understand here because this is a situation here where we're dealing with a new ordinance that newly amended ordinance based on our recommendation last year. We comprehensively reformed, and so we're sort of working our way through these and what the steps are in that, and I can certainly understand. I don't seem to have any objection. It's just I just like to have the procedure done correctly so we know what we're voting on and we don't think afterwards, oh, we forgot to ask about this or that, which often happens. It's just natural, and that's the concern that I'm expressing here because it is poor government, and usually it's done for a reason. When things are done at the last minute, there's a sense of being rushed and there's pressure, and at least less well-informed decision making, and that's what I question about. But if staff is trying to look for something to put on the record that there really isn't the need for anything here, then I'm certainly open to entertaining that, just on the basis that it's coming from the staff. If there's really no formal need, then for a documentation. So I'm open to that way out of this, Mr. Chairman.
It makes it simple. I'll go on record myself and just indicate that it doesn't meet the requirements for a minor land development plan, and therefore the zoning permit and building permit should be issued accordingly.
And then, Mr. Chairman, what action, if any, would be needed other than the commission perhaps acknowledging the recommendation from staff? Do we need to take, this is a question for our council, do we need to take a formal step, or is this acceptance of the statement sufficient? What do we need to satisfy zoning, I guess is what I'm asking.
That was going to be my inquiry to Shannon. Shannon, are you satisfied with Jerome's comment to allow you to issue the zoning permit?
Yes, I'm satisfied.
You don't require any action by this board to proceed with the zoning process?
Not from the zoning ordinance perspective.
Great, thank you.
From the Saldo perspective, maybe we need to make sure that what the Saldo says, and Michelle, I'm sure you see it there at 515.312, make sure that the procedure is understood by the planning commission.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to look at on my phone.
Yeah. So 515.312, it C3, it talks about how a minor land development or the criteria for waiving a minor land development. I think some of the details we're reviewing now aren't crystal clear from a procedure perspective. So that's maybe something we need to work out.
But I don't know, minor land development plan, where the sole purpose of the plan is to develop a lot or tract of land with minor improvements or related impacts. I don't think this meets the definition of a minor land development plan.
It does because it's a change of use.
Okay. Minor land development plan may be waived. So if you're Jerome, if you're saying that this is a minor land development plan, then there would be some type of waiver. So there should be some type of application to this commission to take official action on.
And that's my fault because I did not see that there was any application that's available in our saldo.
Yeah, that's what I initially was trying to find, and then I started looking at the ordinance.
I did not find one.
I don't know, but if you're determining that it is a minor land development plan,
I'm determining that it does not qualify for minor land development, and therefore it should be either waived or just a zoning permit and building permit would be required in lieu of.
yeah, if you're saying it is minor land development, there has to be a waiver. If you're saying it doesn't meet the definition of minor land development, and therefore this commission does not need to review, then there does not need to be a waiver.
Let's put it this way, it all gets down to what's classified as the change of use, and that's what I was trying to do initially, was identify that the change of use is somewhat compatible and the zoning, the proposed use is permitted by right. If the waiver is not required, then let's just proceed with the zoning and building permit.
Rome, this is Bob Conklin. So the change of use was, originally it was a restaurant for paying customers. Now it's a civic center / restaurant for free food and free preparation of food that's going to be delivered. So that's the change of use, is a restaurant to a civic center.
Yes.
Peter, did you still have a comment?
Well, I just, I'm curious, this building looks like the entire ground level is not parking space, but I guess retail space. What percentage of this building is being used for Centro Hispano? Is it just that shaded area?
Correct me if I'm wrong. This is the parking lot across from the movie theaters, right next to Rack, right? And right
That
next
is-
to the Goggle Works.
That is correct, Mr. Conklin. So
Yeah,
the space that,
right, so your first floor is commercial, everything else is parking.
correct. So the space, Peter, that we will be occupying is the former Panavino's space. And also there was a unit that is Second and Court that was unoccupied. That space is where our senior center will be for our seniors. So the restaurant, the commercial kitchen, where we will do our food service and prep. The restaurant where people usually sat and ate will be activities for the seniors, Domino's, health and wellness, information and referral. And then the suite that is on Second and Court will be the senior center.
Are there any site improvements, any at all?
No.
No.
Because as I read, it says any change of use will require minimal site improvements for it to be a minor land development plan. So if there are no site improvements, I
Yeah, there's
don't,
no site improvements, no building addition.
because I think that language qualifies the change of use. I don't think this qualifies as a minor land development plan that requires any action by this commission.
Okay. Okay, we'll note that on the record, and then Mike, then I would say your next step is for the zoning permit and building permit.
Okay. Well, again, thank you for the time and the direction. Much appreciate the work that you all do.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mike, and good luck with this project.
Thank you.
I'll second that motion.
Hey, Mike.
Mr. Chairman. Mr.
Yes,
Chairman, this as well. Let's remember, make a note. that, and this was not the staff's fault, and normally I would say it's the applicant's fault, but it sounds like that this was some oversight, maybe it was on our part, or, you know, whoever's it was, when the amendment was changed, that there does not seem to be a provision for an application or a waiver, should one have been needed. So let's make a note about that and revisit possibly making a recommendation in the future for that, so we don't have that situation again.
Yeah, well, the one thing I wanted us to do during this process was to demonstrate the difference between this project and, say, 100 South 4th Street, which is
Oh,
Dream
sure.
Ventures.
Yeah. Oh,
So that's-
definitely. Yeah. Yeah, I understand. I understand what I'm trying to, because I was trying to remember the language that which, you know, our council just repeated as to, you know, what we meant by change of use. And is it just change of use, or does it necessarily include some other things? Because I know what our intent was. Our intent was when things like parking and so forth, and et cetera, all the usual things are affected. So it certainly makes sense to me when there's no change whatsoever. I just, but if there would be, somebody would want to make an application, we have to make that more clear than in the ordinance, I think. So no, I think that was fine. I just, you know, for the next time, so we don't have any lack of clarity.
Okay.
But that was good. We figured it out, that we don't have to take any action, and everything was worked through and sorted out. Thank you.
And I'll take full responsibility for bringing it to the planning commission. I just wanted to make sure everything was covered before it got too
Yeah,
far.
no, that Mr. Chairman, that was. I think our planning consultant did this the right way. I don't think this was his. I appreciate that. I don't think this was wrong. I just trying to understand what we were talking. I was thinking that I missed something or what. So no, I did. There's no blame or anything whatsoever. I just need some clarity on the ordinance at some point. Thank you.
Okay.
Very good. With that, let me see who's here yet. We have a few guests here. Do I have the wrong agenda? We're up to number 9, correct?
We're up to number 10.
Okay. With the old business waiver requests,
Yes.
that kind of good stuff. Okay, very good. Then I will, for this section, since I see like Mark is here, and so I'll turn this over to Jerome so that he can go through these the items under number 10 and explain what we need to do with each one.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, some of these will just be updates. Some of these will be some action that may be required. But the first one is Dream Ventures, 100 South 4th Street. As you recall, we did look at the sketch plan. We had a lengthy discussion at our meeting that we had on February 12th regarding this project. And the applicant has made submission for the preliminary/final plan. We have the Berks County Planning Commission application as well, and that information is going to be submitted. We just corresponded back with the applicant just to let them know that other plan requirements may be necessary for the project, and we provided them with that list. So what we intend to do is do the preliminary/final plan review and have that submitted to the Planning Commission for its next meeting on March 22nd. During the course of this, we also, if necessary, would need to meet with the zoning office in conjunction with building and trades to discuss the layout of the project as well as the architectural plans that have been submitted, just to make sure that everything is consistent with the building code. Is Mark here?
I'm here, Jerome. Good evening, gentlemen. Agreed, Jerome. We talked this afternoon or this morning about this matter, and we'll work our way through with staff and trades, et cetera. So thank you.
Okay. There's no action that's required.
Thank you for attending, Mark. We're glad to hear that you're moving forward with this.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, the next one is Supernatural. Supernatural Produce, as you recall, we granted preliminary plan approval at our meeting on February 12th. The applicant is in the process of submitting all the documents that are necessary for the final plan. And it looks like they'll be able to submit everything within the next few days, I believe. Dan is here, and we've also worked through some of the issues internally for the site accessibility off of Madison. Is Dan here?
Yeah, I see him.
I'm here, Jerome.
Okay. Do you have anything to add to that?
You had given me the few notes that you wanted to put on the plan.
And then you have the previous review letter that you'll be making the adjustments for the final plan application.
Yes, and traffic planning is doing the turning movements. So that'll be an addendum to my plan, I would imagine.
Yeah, and stay tuned with us. I'd like to discuss with you further on the notes that we've added on the plan with regards to site accessibility. I'd like to possibly add a few more.
Well, that's quite all right. I'm assembling the module. I believe Tim has sent me everything we need. I got to go through it and make sure, and then we'll get that off to DEP for the module approval.
Fantastic. So that's all we have for there. That was just an update as well.
Are you going to email me those notes?
Yes, I will.
Okay, that'll be great.
Thanks, Dan.
And
Thank
Dan,
you.
just a reminder, now that we're in final plan, remember, we're going to need to see agreements, the improvement agreement, stormwater management agreement, and there is that deposit that we make for the long-term inspection. So if you have any questions on that, just, shoot me an email.
Okay.
Okay, then our next project on the updates is for Reading Station Building D, or better well known as the project for what's the name? CubeSmart. This is located within the Reading Station, again as Building D. We previously reviewed the plan as a sketch plan that was brought in for zoning compliance. We reviewed that at that stage, and we feel that our comments are still consistent. We had asked that the zoning office also do a review as part of their staff review when the zoning variance application is submitted. The zoning variances that are going to be necessary for this project involve setback requirements, since Building D is going to be subdivided from the entire tract or the overall site for the Reading Station. You had previously seen this plan and application, and I just wanted to bring forward that the zoning variance application has been submitted. Okay. The next update is with regards to MJ Ryder. MJ Ryder has been in contact with me today, and with regards to what they're going to need for an update. Their plan was going to expire on March 22nd, so we're good on that. This is a preliminary / final plan. It's an annexation and land development plan that's located, I believe it's on
Angelica Street.
Yep. There are some minor improvements associated with the project as a result of the driveway cut and curb line. There's also some facade improvements that have, I believe, qualified for some funding that was made available. And then they've also received the necessary zoning variances that are required. So I will be coordinating my efforts with the applicant to make sure that they have everything in place. for the final land development plan. So I would say that this plan is going to be back to us at our March 22nd meeting. The next project is, if we can get on the screen, is Iron Gate. That's the pictures I had sent. By the way, Emily's been doing another fantastic job.
Thank you. I had the pictures up. I think I closed them out by accident, but I'll pull them up real quick.
Okay. While she's getting that out, what we did was, as a result of our meeting that we had back in January, we did schedule a site meeting. And the site meeting was held on February 1st. And that was between representatives of Public Works, Fire and Safety, myself, which included also Jim Dimmerling for traffic, as well as Michael Hartman for stormwater. Tim was there as well, and the applicant had a conflict, I think, of some sort. But we did come up to a few resolutions that we like to discuss with you, just to make sure that we're all on the same page. As you can see from these photographs, some were taking along Moss Street, and some give you an overall perspective of the property. What we thought was the best option, and if you can slide down to the next set of pictures.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that
These
one,
were
yeah,
the
that one, that's good. You'll notice that there is an alley on along the north side of the property. We concluded that it would be the best use for site accessibility, considering that this building is going to be torn down, that the use of the alley in conjunction with use of the alley in conjunction. Mark, you're being echoed.
I'm in a silent room here. I don't know.
Can you mute for now? Okay. Going back to it, our ordinance specifies under section 600-1602B that the use of an alley be used for site accessibility and off-street parking where it's available. And in this situation, it is available. We believe that there would be no on-street parking spaces that would be lost along Moss Street, and I think that's very valuable. If anything, we may be able to gain a space, and then the alley would need to be widened to approximately 22 feet, and that could be done by easement or by dedication. And then the internal site accessibility for the parking can be obtained off the alley versus off of Moss Street. But there will be some building modifications that would need to be considered. Again, the building is going to be demolished. And therefore, since there's going to be a new building placed, we feel that this would be the best design for the neighborhood. And I thought it would be the best place for a discussion.
Jerome, this is Tom Leggett. If I could jump in, I did review this with Mark and the building and the developer, and they really don't want to improve the alley and take access off the alley. They don't want to lose that 500 square feet of building times the multiple floors. They're essentially saying that would essentially kill the project, because they would lose all that revenue, 500 square feet of storage times that multiple floors. I did look at the on-street parking. I don't think there would be a change in on-street parking with the plan that's as currently shown. There's about 58 feet, there's about 100 feet of frontage. And then today there's 100 feet of frontage and there's about 38 feet of curb cut. And in the future, there'll be 100 feet of frontage and 36 feet of curb cut. And the parking today has more parking on towards the alley and less away from the alley. And they propose it's just the opposite. So I think the parking would actually be better under the proposed plan, leaving access off of Moss.
And you're not going to lose any parking spaces along Moss Street.
I don't think you'll lose any. I'm not even sure if all the parking on Moss Street is even legal. For example, in the existing condition from the current curb cut, you have 40 feet from that curb cut up to the alley you talked about, that little 10-foot alley. I don't know if that 40 feet is all legal parking. Typically you have some kind of yellow curb, restricted parking off of there. In the proposed condition, that 40 feet is reduced to 25 feet. So what happens is the parking on the other side of that curb cut goes from 18 feet of available parking to 38 feet. So I think you actually end up with one, I'll call it more legal space, for lack of a better term, in the proposed condition than you have in the existing condition. Either way, there's a slightly increase in the amount of, I'll call it Moss Street curb frontage in the proposed plan.
Tim, do you have anything to say on this?
Yeah, I'll just throw that in there. I think where this is the discussion that, yeah, it has to be legal parking. Yeah, what Tom is saying is absolutely correct. Yeah, we're not going to include existing parking if the existing parking is not legal. And as you know, there are people that park where they shouldn't be parked. No, when you do an apples to apples comparison, it has to be based on legal parking. And I think normally, unless there's some other extenuating thing like fire hydrants, I think it's normally 5 feet back is that yellow curb from the alley. I think we like to keep them back 5 feet from the curb. So I will add this too, Tom. If the decision is made by this board that we go with Moss Street for the entrance like you had originally planned, and there's a change in where there would be parking prohibited, other than the driveway, we're going to have to go with an ordinance to change that. See, right now we have yellow curbs. Technically, they're not supposed to be there without an ordinance. Unless it's associated with the driveway, then it's just automatic. You get like 5 feet either side. If you want to go more than that 5 feet, we would have to go, and get an ordinance. And I'd have to explain why we're taking away parking. And then we get into the alley, and I hear the arguments on the alley. So we're just going to have to develop, if we're not going to use the alley for accessing like 1602, then we're going to have suitable reason for it. And that's, we're listening to your arguments.
Hi, this is Mark. The question with the alley, that alley's not on the developer's property. So why would it be his burden to widen that alley?
It would be widened on the south side of the alley, which would be on your property.
Yeah, the city's not actually looking for a widening of the alley, just simply access off the alley. And if it means additional space to get truck maneuvering and such, then that would occur on the developer's property.
See, the way we looked at it, Mark, is you already are getting 10 feet of width for your site accessibility with the use of the alley. By just widening it another 12 feet, you would then have enough room for two-way travel, and then you would probably have enough room for your trucks to come in and out of that location. So in essence, it's just 16 feet to the south that you would lose along Moss Street, but you would be gaining the parking spaces where the garage door is now. So right
Tom,
now, you're
if I,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, Joe. I just gonna say, Tom, do you picture what he's saying? Have you had a chance to see what Jerome just laid out, the 26 feet?
I did, and I sent Jerome a couple of emails back and forth. And to the point of, does the widening of the alley allow for two-way traffic or better access or truck turning into the alley, yeah, but the downside is it takes away 12 feet of building.
Can't you add that?
Well,
that-
and can you
that
get,
extra?
can you even get to, it doesn't matter how wide you make the alley, if you can't get to the alley from any point of Moss. It doesn't matter how wide you make the alley.
Yeah, I think you guys might be still missing the point, whereas your building would then just be reconfigured where you can then use the frontage of Moss Street instead of it being open for a parking lot. That would be part of your building. We almost have to go back on site again.
Hey, this is Shannon. I'm the owner of this property here, and based on our feasibility study, I can't lose square footage in this building. I can't lose it. I need every bit of that space, every square foot. Otherwise, the numbers just do not make sense. I can't even get a loan from the bank until this is fully approved. So right now, this is all my free money that I'm throwing at this project. And this is extremely expensive to continue to go back and forth on a couple of parking spaces, more or less, potentially lost. I'm not interested in losing footprint there. I do understand that the city would like to widen that space and allow for two-way traffic, but to be quite honest, this area has a lot of additional problems. People park in that alley illegally. They park and block that corner illegally. You can see they're parked in the back of that building. That's not parking back there, from my understanding. That's an alley, but people are parking there and blocking traffic that way. So I kind of see widening that space as creating an additional parking problem in this particular neighborhood. And the last thing that I'm just going to say is that over the course of this project, my appetite to continue to go back and forth with zoning, is just diminishing. Within the last month and a half, this building has been burglarized. They've stolen, $30,000 worth of material. They broke into my property next door, stole another $10,000. I can't recover all the money I'm losing over here in Reading. And meanwhile, the clock's ticking in the background. I got a water bill on Moss Street here that's approaching $45,000. I can't keep sinking money into this project, while the city doesn't, want to think about numbers. I do understand that, people live in this neighborhood and it's got to be viable, and that this board has put in place to protect the interest of the neighborhood. But it's going to be extremely difficult to attract investors to an area that's extremely poor, that crime is extremely high, and anybody that wants to come in and invest this type of money in this neighborhood. So if this thing is going to keep going this direction, and I'm going to keep wasting my money on applications and escrow fees and attorneys and this and that, I'm more than likely just going to walk away from this project, and then I'll just let this building go back to, judicial sale, and they can take on this property and someone else can take on this headache. That's where I'm getting to right now, if we're going to continue to argue about parking spots.
Then the just to put a frame around that, and we spent almost 2 years getting the classification reorganized out of R3 back into a commercial situation, and we finally got through the one stop and the advisory of that, and we got to the first meeting, and one of the gentlemen so kindly said, "Does this building look like a house?" The response was no. "Has this building ever been used as a house?" The response was no. Then it's not a house. And literally within 120 seconds, with an attorney and no less than $20,000 out of Mr. Merriweather's pocket, the board reclassified to commercial. And we were on our way. And we were on our way with this board. And in November, December, we were told possibly preliminary to final. And here we are in February, we're literally talking about the potential loss of one parking spot. And we're looking to bring a facility to a desolate, desperate alley in the city of a desperate, desolate, crime-ridden situation. And we're talking about the loss of one parking spot. And Mr. Merriweather is a working class gentleman with not deep pockets. He's going to go and get an SBA loan, and he's going to work his rear end off to pay for this investment. We're leaning on the board to make a financial decision, and let's get on with it. Let us get to the project. Let us generate revenue and a tax base that's going to pay way for more than one parking spot. There's paid for parking at the other corner of Moss Street. 1 block away, whoever wants to pay to park can go and pay to park. Tom, I don't have anything else. If you want to add anything else.
Actually, there's paid parking right on the same block on Walnut. On the intersection of Moss and Walnut, there's paid parking there. So it's not like there's no parking options there. And I just will mention this for the sake of conversation. The parking lot that faces the church that you see in the picture, that parking lot was originally a part of this building property. I didn't own the property at that particular point, but there was a gate there that was open at some point. So technically, I should have had right of usage to that parking lot. Now, the church has put a temporary fence up, denying me access to that particular parking lot, and then they fenced in the whole rest of the parking lot. Now they're saying, okay, we own it. Well, I'm not really interested in going to court to try to sue a church for the usage of this space, but it's clear that that parking lot was meant for this building. So I'm kind of in a position where there's, an amount of hardship that I'm facing with having a commercial property in the middle of a residential area, but then the church takes the parking lot and then I have nothing. So I'm really just trying to work with the city here to figure out how can we get past this. I do understand that the city has ideas about what they would like to do. Mark and Ludgate have worked together to try to come up with what they feel is the best design and the best use of this space. I know there's been an excitement, within the board to potentially have a business coming into this space and redeveloping that area. I just don't want to continue to spend, my time and resources going back and forth when I feel like the city's not thinking financially. I mean, if at the end of the day, it's worth that one parking space to keep that one parking space there, then that's fine. That's the city's choice. But I'm more or less just gonna walk on this particular, opportunity here, and I'll take what'll be $250,000, $300,000 loss at this point, and that's okay because this headache will go away.
Well, thank you for your comments. I would just add that if I was in your position and the city asked me to widen the alley, I would say that the footprint of the existing building should be what I'm allowed to develop on. And because there is a there's a certain can't think of the word right now, but if the building's there and you got a footprint, you should be allowed to develop that footprint. Is my thought. I don't know about the rest of the members, but from from being in a similar position on certain projects when I was younger, I would say that it is too much of a burden to ask for the widening of the alley. I do get Jerome's point about reconfiguring and gaining some of that space back, but I don't. I'm not sure it's our position to widen the alley to something that the city might not even take.
Wayne, just point of clarification. They're going to have to put in a 22-foot wide access point onto Moss Street in order to gain access into their property. That does not include the alley. So 22 feet in width plus the curb radius that's the area that's going to be required for them to get accessibility from Moss Street. What we're saying is about widening the alley is you already got 10 feet and you only need to do 12 to 16 feet more. So doing the math, you're losing, I mean, you are gaining space by using the alley. But I mean, if I'm wrong about the numbers on the parking, fine, so be it. And if they feel that their design is a better use of the property, then they should proceed with that direction. But we think that they're going to lose 1 or 2 spaces.
Mr. Chairman, if I may add to the discussion here, just from the public works standpoint, because I deal with parking on city streets, and when the request comes in for parking zones, and that would be for loading zones or 20-minute parking or this sort of, because of the adjacent owner requesting it, typically if the owner owns the frontage where the request is being made, we give that a lot of weight. So if they were asking for a loading zone, for instance, in this area, we would probably consider that favorably. Unless there's some other extenuating circumstances, we would probably give it. If it was in front of somebody's house, we probably would not, because we wouldn't want to give up that space that's being used by the community. So I'm just letting you know that that's something that Public Works and how we look at on-street parking. So if the owner is adjacent to that frontage, we give that heavy weight to the owner and to their request. That's one point in this discussion. The second one is, like Jerome, we got to deal with the zoning ordinance. And the zoning ordinance, 600-1602 says that you should use the alley when one is available. But there's a couple of other caveats to that too. If you read the rest of the sentence, it said with exceptions, one of them being PennDOT. Okay, well, PennDOT doesn't have anything to do with it because it's not a state road, or where approved otherwise by the City Planning Commission. So it kind of throws it back in the Planning Commission's lap, even though it's a zoning ordinance. Jerome, you can comment on that, but it's kind of unusual here that it's zoning, which would normally go to the zoning hearing board. But in here, I think it puts the Planning Commission in the driver's seat.
And that's why we had the site meeting, and we invited the developer to go over and look at these options.
Right. And I actually thought your idea was good. And I actually thought, based on the discussion here, that this would be an improvement. It would give them actually a better site. But if they think it won't, then I guess it won't.
This is Peter. I'm interested in getting caught up on what the plans are for this site. What would happen here?
Emily, is it possible to get the site plan up for this project?
Give me a moment.
Shannon, this is Mark with Iron Gate. Shannon, are you still on the call?
Yes.
Shannon, just for the record, who owns the property next to the subject site?
I own the property.
Thanks.
I just wanted to mention one other thing, and I'm not 100% positive, but it seems to me as if that even if we went down to the alley using that as an access point, it's like the truck turning radius, it's not really helping as much. And if it's helping you get in, then it's not going to help you getting out because there's only a certain amount of space down there. So I'm not really seeing that the use of the alley as an entry point into this building is going to be more of a benefit.
So you're going to have the same problem with your present design. What you see on the screen now is your present design, and the parking that's going to be lost is going to be more than one space. I mean, just to look at the way the trucks were going in and out of this facility.
So currently, right now at the overhead door, there's the space, the curb cut, and then there's 10 feet of yellow that people are not supposed to park on anyway. So right there, that's got to be 35 feet plus, maybe 35, somewhere around there. At least I'm not exactly sure. Mark or Ludgate should have actually got that measurement, but
Yeah, if I can jump in, we do have that measurement. So right now, from the existing curb cut heading south on Moss, you have 18 feet of the actual curb, but of course, 5 of that you can't park on. You're not supposed to park on, put it that way.
Plus the radius.
So in the proposed plan from the new driveway, there's actually 38 feet. So we actually increase the parking that's available. I'll call it on the south side of the building frontage. So we take parking that's at Moss and the alley and you transfer it down away from the alley. So I think that parking actually becomes better.
The only area where you have a no parking restriction is the area where the garage doors are, or the overhead garage door is.
Right. But that overhead garage door today has got a curb cut of about 38 feet. It's really wide. The garage door is not 38 feet, but the curb cut is.
And what's your curb cut here?
The proposed curb cut?
Yeah.
About 36.
I think I said all I can.
so what would be the issue with 1 or 2 people parking at the parking lot right on the corner? There's plenty of open spots in there. Like I get that parking is an issue. I mean, when I visit there, I've got the same parking issue, but at the end of the day, there are paid parking options around there. I mean, $40 for a month of parking, that's a dollar, $1.30, $1.10 a day, $1.25. I mean, that's not a lot of money. And there's available parking in that lot. So I'm at a loss as to why we're going back and forth over 1 or 2 parking spaces.
Jerome, this is Emily with zoning. Has the option been brought up about however many spaces they'd be losing to just make up for it with a parking agreement with that lot?
That's definitely a viable option, Emily.
Because if it's only 1 or 2 spaces that's being argued, and if I looked it up on Google Maps, it's right adjacent to the property. If the property owner is amenable to that, if he just can get some sort of parking agreement with the owner of that lot for the 1 or 2 spaces to make up for it, I think that would satisfy everyone's concern. And that way we don't have to keep on going back and forth about a few parking spaces.
I don't feel that's going to be realistic for me based on my position. I don't know who these people are, but I do know who manages that parking lot, and I don't get along with them because when I purchased this building, they want to park on the yellow. And I've told them you can't park there. I was using the overhead door. I've had to call the parking authority to have people's cars towed or force them to move them. I've already had parking wars on this block with 2 or 3 people, but the managers of that parking place on the building, I don't get along with them. I don't know who the owner is, but I don't get along with those people because of parking in the first place.
Jerome, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think the issue here is losing spaces. I don't know that there's anything in the saldo or the ordinance that says a developer can't take away spaces of on-street parking if everything else they're doing meets the ordinance. And maybe Michelle can help me out on this. I don't have a problem with losing spaces. My concern is using the alley because that's what's in the ordinance. That's what's in the zoning ordinance. And it seemed to me, Jerome, your idea of using the alley, you're gaining an extra 10 feet of space from what is not on the property, but you can use it to your advantage on this lot. Tom, this is similar to how you did the Dollar General at Bingaman and 6th Street. If you remember, there's the brick alley, and you use part of that alley. You widened it to get an access to get trucks in and out of the the Family Dollar down there. This same idea went through my mind. Well, why can't you do that here? I think that's where Jerome was going with it too. This was actually a win. We were hoping it was going to be a win-win.
The way we saw it also was that you can easily increase the size of this building because if you're using the alley, you could probably gain another 10 feet. And that's where I'm saying, I think you guys are missing the point, but maybe we are.
Maybe
I
we are.
apologize for that.
Yeah, maybe we are. It just seemed like a pretty good idea.
It did. And there wasn't one person. I mean, you guys were invited to the meeting. No one showed up. It seemed like to be the best alternative. All right, we're wrong.
Mr. Chairman, this is Will. Just a question. I know when this came up the last time I asked about the ownership of the alley, whether it was public or private, and who the adjoiner was. Do we know anything further yet at this point?
Yeah, it is an alley. It is an official alley, just as Justice Place is an alley. It's not a street.
Oh,
It's a city. It's a city
It is a
alley.
public.
No,
Okay,
it's
because
not
the
public.
thought was
It's-
that it was private, but it is a pub. That's what I asked. So it is
No,
a public.
no,
See, you
alleys are
you
not-
never know. That's why I asked. Yep.
No, but alleys are not public. In other words, the city has no jurisdiction over it. We don't plow it. We don't improve it. It's owned by the adjoining owners for their use and use in accordance with the way that's specified in the ordinance.
Oh, so it's not a public street. It's an alley.
It's a semi-private alley. That's how we.
Semi-private. In
typically
other
refer to
words, it's owned in common, but no particular deed holder.
Correct.
But by which parties? The applicant, because the applicant is one adjoiner, and then the other
Yes.
adjoiner,
Yes,
and the other adjoiner was still unknown as on the plan, right?
to the north.
To the north.
I don't know if that adjoiner would have a say in the part of the ordinance that we're discussing. It's available to this owner, to this developer.
And this developer came cut at what the intent of the alley was for site accessibility.
Yeah.
But I don't understand. I don't understand why the other adjoiner wouldn't have. But I don't know how the ordinance is on that. But we could get clarification on that. Just what I'm trying to understand. I mean, yes, parking is at a premium in the city, and we understand that. And I certainly support this project because what was said about the neighborhood and this current building being a danger, as I mentioned before. I do not agree with the idea, and it doesn't matter because that's not the point here. I did not agree at all that $40 is not much. That's a lot of money for a poor area. It's a lot of money in my area, and I'm in, I think, an R2 district. So I don't think that's accurate. That's not the point here. I think the point is the access, and what I thought was that what our staff is suggesting is that there be more square footage for the building, and therefore there could be more units to make it even more viable, unless that option would not want to be exercised. I don't think it would necessarily be a loss. I think it's there's a net exchange. Maybe somebody has to do the calculations there, how that would affect. But I suppose it's possible based on the configuration that maybe it would not mean more units. That's what we don't understand because, we're not here to review the internal part of it. So I don't know. I'd like to see it. I'd like to see how the proposed change could affect any layout. Could there not be more units, one or two on each floor that would make up for this widening of the alley?
Well, I think they could even expand the building itself.
That's what I mean. Yeah, that's what I thought you meant. Right. But I don't know if that's feasible. But it sounds like, well, they're losing a piece, but then they're maybe gaining the same amount or more. But I don't know how that fits in with the floor plan. Is it effectively not make them able to add more units? Because I'm not seeing anything. Remember, I'm on the phone here, so I can't picture or visualize, which part. I know which part of the building we're talking about, the north side there, but we don't look at the floor plan, so I don't know if exchanging one piece for another makes it easier or not. But that's what I thought. What the staff's recommendation was is that maybe you could have more units per floor if the developer thought it was worth it to put more units in. I don't know.
Well, this is Mark with Iron Gate, and respectively, we're not looking to lose or gain. The mathematic formula for the building and the property to perform is based on the square footage, the building height that we've proposed. It has to be somewhere within the realm of what we proposed. Losing 12 feet. If we reconfigure the square and we end up with similar square footage or very close to that square footage, and it's just a matter of redesigning the building, and I end up with the same square footage, and I can give Mr. Merriweather the building with the same square footage, and he ends up with the same amount of units, that's one thing. But if it's a burden that we put on him and he has to widen an alley, and does anybody have a feasibility study on what it's going to cost us to bear the burden of widening your alley? Does anybody know what that costs?
What's the cost for putting in the 27-foot access?
Again, we're not asking for a widening of the alley. It's just simply the widening would be on the private property. They did this at the Dollar General that I mentioned before. There was no taking. There was no giving of an alley. It's just that you're building part of your access and your entrance next to the alley, and you're using the balance of the alley as the width of your driveway.
So if my personal on-lot infrastructure doesn't change, if the square footage of asphalt is reconfigured, but in theory doesn't change, if the structure of the building square footage doesn't change, but is manipulated slightly, in theory, I don't have an objection to that, because my life is based on square footage and multipliers. If you throw a curveball to that algorithm, it changes the performance of that algorithm. It changes the output of that answer and how we all survive. And at the end of the day, the answer that spits out at the end of that calculator, if it is a loss, then we all lose. It doesn't make sense. So if what you're proposing the way it was presented to me is we're taking 12 feet out of the building. Is that not what you're saying?
That's what we're not saying.
Yeah, we weren't proposing to shrink the size of the building. We were hoping maybe you could increase it, but if that doesn't work, then don't do it.
Yeah, because we're already, like, the building is already at cap. The cost of the structure, the cost of the it's over $300,000 to tear that building down, because
we can't get trucks down Moss Street. So this is what's like, I can't get the appropriate construction vehicle down Moss Street. So my load per truck is increased by 2 1/3 because I have to use a smaller vehicle. So the fact that I'm debating on getting trucks to a storage facility that will never have a bigger truck than X is amazing, because I can't even knock the building down under normal construction ability standards. I got to use smaller vehicles.
Mark, I'm glad you
Because of
brought
all
up that. I'm
because
glad
of
you
all
brought
the
that up.
illegal parking. So, like it's a, you know, that's what we're up against.
Mark, I'm glad you brought up about the logistics issue, because we feel when we were out at the site is that you could actually expand the size of this mill.
Right. And the, you know, the other thing about, if you also recall, and Tom, I wanted to bring this, I don't know if grade has been taken into consideration, because if we keep talking about using the alley as access, the further you go down the midpoint of the alley, the further deeper you go into grade. So from Moss Street to midpoint of alley, you dropped 5.5 feet. So now I'm 6 feet below top of door. How am I getting my ADA people to the front door?
Tim, I don't think
If
we
my
were talking about
parking lot is-
widening we were not widening the alley beyond the building footprint.
No, but if we're coming out at the alley out there, if you see my architectural sketches, I have guardrail along the alley because I have the parking lot built up. I wasn't coming out on the alley because of how grade falls off.
Yeah, there's a grade issue, which is why, you know, goes back to part of that Moss Street access. You avoid the grade issue associated with using the alley.
That's right. That's why I didn't come out on the alley. I have guardrail there because of my ADA. I have ADA access on the right corner of the building and at the center point of the building.
Hold
And
it
I have
there.
ramps that ramp up into the building. And
I don't have the architect book.
I have my grade level with Moss Street. The deeper you go into the alley, and you see I have those garage doors on the lower level, I have almost 7 feet of fall from Moss to the back alley. So that's why I didn't propose coming out on the alley, because I can't get my ADA clients into the building if I drop it 5 feet. Or else I'd have ramps for days.
Yeah, you can see in the site plan, the parking lot has more of an offset to the alley than the building, north and south, to, you know, somewhat take into account that grade.
What's the difference there, Tom?
Off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you, Jerome, but it's probably 2 feet or something. But to Mark's point, though, by the time you get down to Justice Place, it's probably closer to 5.
Halfway down the alley, you're about 4.5 feet.
Okay, I mean, again, off the top of my head, I couldn't, but that's why we have that offset, Jerome, from the parking spaces to the alley.
And I don't think we were asking you to widen the alley all the way down to Justice. We were just talking about what's to gain site accessibility into your property.
Yeah, so I had sidewalk and guardrail bordering the alley halfway down towards the front corner entrance to our building. And we opened up that whole corner there to let the property breathe a little bit, so it wasn't so closed off the way it is right now.
Okay. I think I said enough. Does anyone from the planning commission have anything to add?
I think it's a nice project.
Thank you.
I think we should find a way to make this work. There's hundreds of buildings like these around the city that have the same challenges. We need to be able to solve it for this one if we're going to solve it for others.
Any other commissioner would like to make a comment? I'm not exactly sure how to move forward, but I think we're sort of at an impasse unless, somebody can sketch out a little bit closer to, what this is, but I understand the grade issues and everything. So I think at this point we just move forward, and if an agreement can be made to change the alley a little bit, that actually improves the income for the owner, so be it. But I think at this point, I think we need to move forward with how the plan has been submitted.
Wayne, can I ask this question? The arguments that you've heard so far, would you say that you've received enough input from the developer that would give you support for that zoning ordinance that we've been talking about? Because it does put the planning commission, in the driver's seat. It allows the planning commission to determine whether or not that zoning ordinance that discusses the alley being used as the axis instead of the street puts the planning commission in a position where they can determine the decision on that. We've heard arguments right now that the owner doesn't want to use this, and for grading reasons and for access reasons. I would say parking, making available parking would not be a concern for Public Works. It's mainly because we have an alley that has accessibility that seems to be like a good idea, plus it's in the ordinance. But if it's considered not to be an advantage, then I think it goes to the planning commission to make a decision. Jerome, I don't know if you agree or not.
I totally agree with you. I can't believe. To me, it's something that I think was a resolution that three engineers, the fire and safety person out there, myself.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I forgot about that.
And we were all like shaking our heads, why don't they use the alley? And I don't think that the grade is an issue at all. Because you're in the site already. I mean, you're already accessing your site before that slope starts to taper off. And you're going to gain more space. So if you want to proceed with your plan, go ahead. I mean, we were looking out for the best way to preserve on-street parking and to improve site accessibility of the project, given the requirement that you're to use the alley.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really the main thing, is the zoning ordinance.
Mr. Chairman, this is Lee. I've been listening to all of this. I'm hearing both sides. I like what Peter said. This is not an anomaly in the city of Reading. There are many buildings like this that are in the same situations with tight accesses around it. And if Tim's spot on with respect to this is a planning commission opportunity, well then for Christ's sake, let's plan. Let's quit talking and deliberating and pontificating. Why don't we take the bull by the horns? If there's some disagreement between the developer and the planning commission with zoning and public works, then why don't we get together? Maybe this is the time where we create some sort of workshop environment where we don't know all the answers going in, but we know what we want to have when we come out. Now let's sit down and put our heads together. Tom's got all the drawings. We know that the owner has a definite pro forma he has to meet. And maybe there's a compromise solution, because it sounds to me that Jerome and Tim have looked at it, and maybe we just need to sit down and say, okay, ego's at the front door. Let's sit down, let's grab the sketch paper and figure out how to solve this damn problem.
Can I just make a quick comment as a somewhat outsider to this conversation? In my opinion, professionally, I think both sides have pretty much exhausted their arguments. And at this point, I feel like it should be on the commission to just take a vote at this point, whether or not, you know, they want to basically grant, for lack of a better term, a waiver to this part of the zoning ordinance that requires them to have alley access. You know, the city's position is that it would be a benefit to the owner to reconfigure. However, the owner already has their opinion based on their hired professionals. So now it would just be up to the board, the commission to just take a vote. Just, you know, we've been discussing this for almost 45 minutes. I think discussions and planning has been exhausted at this point. But that's just my opinion, kind of just sitting on the back seat.
Well, thank you, Emily. I appreciate that very much.
Mr. Chairman, this is Will. I have a question for our council. We have this interpretation from Public Works and zoning. It makes sense to me, but I'd like to hear our council's interpretation that indeed planning does have purview in this regard. And what action, would it be a waiver or what?
Well, I have to be honest, this is the first time I've heard this discussion tonight, so I would ask for time to take a closer look at it. My suggestion, kind of piggybacking on what Emily said, not being a design professional, and it's my understanding that the applicant was not present at the site meeting, would it, and maybe it's looking at things from different eyes, would it be beneficial, and I don't want to take up Tim and Jerome's additional time, for everybody to do a site and maybe a more visual as to what's being discussed, that the applicant would confirm their attendance, or at least allow their consultants to be there?
Fantastic idea.
So this is Mark with Iron Gate. Just, I need to comment because this is like the fourth time I heard I was not at the meeting. I was never invited to a meeting. I do not have a formal invite to that meeting. So if it wasn't circulated amongst my team, I certainly apologize for not being at the meeting. I did not know there was a meeting. I wasn't at the meeting. I will be at every single meeting as long as I'm included in the invite to all future meetings. I welcome a workshop meeting as long as that next meeting, if we could move to a workshop and hopefully a resolve and possibly an approval at next month, as long as my team is in favor of that and my developer is in favor of that. Like I said, as long as I keep the squares, if the squares match the numbers at the end of the conversation, I can fix all of this. I welcome and I'm open to it. And like everybody on the phone, my ADD kicks in about 12 minutes. So we're long in the tooth with the conversation. I agree that 45 minutes is way long. I'm open to whatever has to happen to get us to the promised land. So whatever has to happen, make it happen.
I think it has to be another site meeting.
If we can do that, and in the interim, I will look at the language. I see the language was brought up, but I really don't want to take a quick look at it. As we said, we're 45 minutes into this discussion, particularly if
Yeah. So, since Mark is willing to do the site meeting, and I believe Jerome is also willing to do the site meeting so he can be a little more detailed on to show what we're talking about. I think that might be a good way forward, and we could still have that on the table for next month.
I agree. We can, I would say myself and Tim would be the only ones that need to be there from the city, unless a planning commission member wants to accompany us, that's fine.
Yeah, this is Lee Olson. I would like to, depending on when you set that up, I would make myself available to look at it through an architect's eyes and just see what the problems are and, help solve the problem.
We could actually have up to 3 planning commission members.
Well, let's stick with 2, just because we only have a membership of 6 at the moment. I understand where you're going with 3, but I would prefer to stay at 2.
Okay. Let's send out, let's get a date that we can all agree upon. I'll send that out tomorrow on available dates. And if I don't have all your email addresses, you probably have mine. So tell me what your availability is and we can go from there.
Okay.
And I like to do it within.
Mr. Chairman, before we move on, this is Bob Conklin. Just, can you remind me where we are already? Have we given preliminary review approval of this project yet?
Yeah, I think we're definitely in the final plan stage. Oh, you know what? I apologize. We're in the revised preliminary plan stage.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, very good.
And is this something, again, I don't have the saldo in front of me. Is this a preliminary stage review issue? Or would it be a final plan review issue?
I would definitely say this is a preliminary stage, because in final stage, you don't want to be changing, the footprint of the building.
I would agree with you in principle. I just didn't have the ordinance in front of me, so. So we're not in a position to give any type of approval tonight.
So,
And Jerome, we're good with time?
Yes.
all right. So we will look forward to this email tomorrow. I will.
Does the
being
board have my
chairman-
email? This is Mark. Does the board have my email?
I think everyone has my email, so because of the review letter. So why don't you make sure you send it to me and then I can put out a feeler on what the best available date is. I like to do it within the next week.
And just so we have no issues of any sunshine violations, is there any other volunteer from the commission that would like to attend in conjunction with Mr. Olson?
I being chairman, I guess I should attend unless Peter would like to go since he's the new member.
I'd be happy to go. My calendar's often pretty busy, but if I can, I will.
So why don't we say, Mr. Rye, if you're available, if not, Mr. Beal will attend in your stead.
Okay, that sounds good.
Okay.
That sounds fine to me.
So Michelle, a revised plan was submitted to the city last month. It was reviewed by my office on January 21st, and that's where all this discussion goes. So I'm going with the 90-day count from the meeting on the 25th.
Okay.
From that point forward, because that would have been the next planning commission meeting.
Okay.
And this is Will. I wish I could attend, but it's challenging during the day. But I would like to see pictures, please. So,
okay.
Thank you.
And Jerome, we do have Mark's email.
Okay,
So I
great.
can send it to you if you don't have it.
Yeah, if everyone can send me their email addresses, I'll try and schedule this tomorrow.
Thank you.
Okay, very good.
Well, not for tomorrow, but I mean, I'll send out the invite for what's available for the next week.
Okay, very good. Thank you, everyone. We greatly appreciate everybody's input into this discussion. And with that, I think we'll move on to the Rumcon Plastics.
Okay. Rumcon Plastics is a plan that was previously submitted last year. It did receive final plan approval. And that was, of course, subject to the municipal improvements agreement and stormwater management agreement. The applicant has provided us with an updated plan, which is the same plan, and has also provided us cost estimates. We reviewed the cost estimates, noticed that the 10% contingency needed to be added, as well as the 5% administrative fee. We sent that back to the applicant, as well as the need for the municipal improvements agreement and stormwater management agreement, which would be necessary. Mark Cook is the council. Mark, are you still here?
Still here, Jerome, and members of the commission. Good evening again. How are you?
Doing great. And the
Oh,
other
wonderful,
thing,
right?
and the other thing that's necessary is, regardless of what the decision is on the project, we need a reaffirmation of approval on this plan, which was granted by the developer.
Mark, it's Michelle Mayfield. Can you make sure I get to see those agreements? I don't know if they've came across my desk or not. I know there was some discussion about numbers today.
They did not come across your desk yet, Michelle. If Tim is still on, Tim, could I ask you to get me the amount of the stormwater escrow? Or where I can find that amount, please?
That's for the insertion into the stormwater management agreement.
Right, Jerome and I talked about it briefly, and I think Tim is possibly the one to provide that amount. So as soon as I get that, I can send them over to you, Michelle.
Okay, did we lose Tim?
I think he stepped away.
Yeah, I only see his chair.
Okay.
Of course, he's here all night until I need him.
And Mark, I presume you have the standard agreements, or we've worked together on other projects, so.
I have your standard agreements. We've completed them. I'm literally waiting for that stormwater calculation for the escrow to insert, and I'll get them back over to your desk, so.
Okay. And if for some reason there's a delay on that, you can send me over the agreements and I'll just note that the number has to be completed.
Okay, fair enough. I can do that tomorrow.
Okay, Tim has returned.
I'm back. I couldn't sit there for that long without taking a break.
Tim, I said I needed you one time all night. You disappeared on me, so.
I'm here. I didn't go away. I just had nature called.
Quick question for you. If you're able to
Yeah.
get me a calculation. So we're talking about REMCON and the insertion of the escrow for the stormwater agreement. I just need a number to put in that agreement. I don't know if you calculate that or if you need us to calculate it and get it to you, but I figured it was something you might have.
Are you talking about for the improvements now, the stormwater?
No, this is the stormwater agreement, the escrow amount that you guys hold, I think, in perpetuity.
Yeah, the 10,
The 10-year, the
Yeah.
10-year, generally it's $5,000 on the larger commercial sites. It tends to be less than that on the individual residentials. So, I mean, without studying it, I would say offhand, it's based on doing like 3 inspections the first 5 years, and then 1 or 2 more for the balance of the 5 years, for a total of 10 years. So, without further studying it, and unless there's any argument, I would say make that $5,000 for the stormwater management fee deposit.
I'll run that past Pete and see if he has any issues. So,
Okay,
thank you for that. Appreciate it.
sure.
Okay, so going back to the reaffirmation of approval for this project, the letter was issued on February 18th with regards to the review of the information that needs to be completed. And as we mentioned, it was the 10% contingency fee needs to be added, the 5% inspection fee. Tim has now provided the stormwater management dollar amount, and that's it. So this is a 90-day extension.
So with that, do I hear a motion to reaffirm the land development plan for Remcon Plastics at the 2nd and Chestnut, I believe that is.
208 Chestnut.
Mr. Chairman, this is Will. I move to reaffirm Remcon Plastics plan at 208 Chestnut Street.
Okay, thank you, Will. Do I hear a second?
Lee Olson seconds.
Okay, thank you, Lee. Question on the motion? Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
Have a good night. Thanks.
Okay, and then this brings us to whatever the next one is.
1527 North Fifth Street. This is the car wash. We're awaiting more information on this. We do not have the information we're looking for at this time.
Okay, great.
It'll be on next month's agenda.
Okay, very good. Well, although it took a while, I think we were able to take care of a lot of loose ends there. So thank you very much, Jerome. Okay, under announcements and other business, Shannon's, oh yeah, Shannon's still here. We were talking about two things, but the first thing I want to talk about is that Shannon has offered to give a MPC review on the week of the 14th or
14th would be a good week for me.
yeah, on the week of the 14th. And we've received we've received unanimous approval of this, that we should get together and do this as a workshop. My question, of course, would be, should we do this during the day or in the evening? I would think because of Bob and Will's schedules, we'll probably be better off doing this in the evening sometime. So
If we can schedule it ahead of time, a couple of week and a half, then I can do it in the daytime, but I know Will has difficulties, so.
Yeah. Okay.
So I thank you. I don't know about what the schedule is for our new colleagues.
It depends on the day. So just throw some dates out there, dates and times, and some days are good, some nights are good. It depends.
Yeah, same here. Although I prefer, days and evenings.
Well, with that, Shannon, could you give us, could you send out an email with your best days and times available for the week of March 14th? And then we can work to a consensus, and then we can get this advertised.
Yeah, I have a lot of flexibility, to be honest with you. So, and I'm happy to do it during the day or at night. Really, the 14th, 15th, and 16th, I have a lot of flexibility. So.
So for me, not the evening of the 15th and not the day of the 16th.
Yeah, same here. I have to go to Penn State that day. The 14 works better for me.
Yeah.
14.
Yeah, preferably.
Very good. 14th, how does that work for you, Lee?
I'll make it work.
Okay.
Afternoon, preferably.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll make it work.
Very good. What time is good for you, Bob, in the afternoon?
I'm free on the 14th.
Oh, geez. And how about you, Will?
I'm not sure. I don't want to hold everybody. No, 14th sounds like it's a good day. We'll go with that. I mean, if I have to, I can call my customers. I try to avoid that if I have to, and if I could, appear over the phone, that helps. It's hard to predict,
Okay, great.
But thank you.
How long do we need?
Well, these types of courses can take anywhere between an hour and 8 to 10 hours. So I think it's going to be kind of an intro course to talk through kind of what's in the MPC, to kind of teach you kind of how to what's there, so you know how to look for it or why you should be looking for something. And I'm happy to give a little bit of an overview of the zoning ordinance as well. So I mean, I think we should start with no more than 2 hours, if not less. And then depending on what we're able to cover, if you wish for more discussion or a future workshop, we can dig into maybe different topics at a later time. Plus, there's other training out there that I'll be able to share with you as well. There's other training courses that you can look into as well. But so 2 hours or less, depending on how long you can sit. Although we've proven tonight that we have stamina.
3 to 5 o'clock in the afternoon,
sounds
on the
great.
14th.
3 to 5, that works for me.
Shannon, if I can be of assistance in any way, let me know.
Okay, thanks, Michelle.
Same here.
Great.
Thank you.
So March 14th from 3 to 5 p.m. And should we use the third floor conference room?
Sure.
Okay, great. That way
Yeah,
we'll,
but if I can attend telephonically, I could go, hop on or off as needed. That would be, that would really be helpful. Thank you.
yeah, that's why I suggested the third floor conference room will, all the technologies in that room.
We might have to meet there with having a larger commission.
Yeah, that other room is tight.
It is a nice size room, and I'm suggesting that's where we should meet in the future.
Yeah, I thought that's why you had said that. That's where we had met before, right? When we had some special meetings up there, right?
Yeah, the last special meeting that we had to do with the comprehensive plan in that room.
Exactly, I remember. Yeah, that's a nice sized room. It could accommodate the developers and the public and us and the staff. That's an idea.
Okay, great, very good. Well, thank you very much for that. And then at that meeting, I think we'll also discuss the possibility of doing like they do in Spring Township workshop meetings. I think it's better if we discuss that face to face. Besides the fact that it's getting pretty late. So,
Mr. Chairman, if I could just clarify, who's going to run the advertisement for the workshop on March 14th?
I guess I could have Emily do it.
I mean, it doesn't matter. I just want to make sure it's being taken care of.
Yeah. Yeah, Emily, can you take care of that for us?
Yeah.
Okay. Great. So March 14th at from 3 to 5 p.m. third floor conference room to discuss MPC review and the possibility of workshop sessions, and that will be everything on the agenda.
All right.
Great.
Just a reminder, agendas have to be posted 24 hours ahead of time.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you for that. Any other announcements or other business from the commissioners? Very good. With that, we will go on to the approval of the Planning Commission meeting minutes for January 25th.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry again. Well, maybe this is going to be at our next Planning Commission meeting. Is there any discussion about how meetings are going to continue electronically or in person?
Yeah, that's number 13.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, great.
I move the approval of the January 25th 2022 minutes.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
Lee Olson seconds.
Okay, thank you, Lee. Question on the motion? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 I'm gonna mark that one down as a 5-0.
Yeah.
Since,
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to abstain from voting on the minutes there.
And and then the meeting minutes for February 12th, 2022.
I'll move that those meeting minutes be approved as submitted.
Thank you, Will.
Second.
Okay, thank you, Will. Question on the motion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, and of course, one abstention.
Thank you.
Yeah, this format is much much easier to, it's a lot quicker and has all the parliamentary points. And I appreciate all the background information before, but this takes away decisions on how to phrase this statement or what to include and not to include. It just takes all that away, makes it a lot easier. So everything was just spot on. Thank you.
thank you, Will. I finally did something right.
Oh no, I think everything you're doing is right. put that in the record. I hope that didn't come off otherwise earlier. That wasn't my issue. So
I could take a punch.
no, that none was being thrown. I will reassure. Thank you.
All right, and then I'll for the discussion on the next meeting, I'll turn that over to Jerome.
Yeah, this was a discussion that we had just briefly amongst ourselves. And I guess it's the determination on how you feel as from a comfort level, if you feel that you would like to now meet in person or do a hybrid version where it's in person and made available to the public, or just continue as is in this format for the Zoom meetings. So that's one component. And then the second component is, do we want to add in a workshop session? So the first version is, how do you want to meet from here on out on our regular planning commission meeting date?
This is Lee Olson. I vote for hybrid.
I was gonna say the same thing. This is Bob.
I second.
I wanna come in person and I wanna meet everybody and talk to everybody, but sometimes your schedule just doesn't allow it.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, I think hybrid's the way to go too, definitely.
Yeah, I think I think it'll be a very good way to go. But the other thing is that our guests, like the high-priced lawyers and the engineers and stuff, and those people, they can sit in their office and join us. And and then we can use the third floor conference room, because that worked out very well for the redistricting committee.
Emily has some thoughts on what's available from a technology standpoint, what's going to be best.
So it might not work just scheduling wise, because I don't know when council meetings and all those other things are scheduled. However, they have upgraded council chambers. It is suitable now for hybrid. They also do have this this cool little device where you can vote, and the vote is can be shown on the screen. So I did do a training on it. I'm gonna do further training with Linda Kelleher. So if scheduling permits, that technology is available to us.
I believe all the same technology is in the third floor conference room.
Okay, no, I haven't been there, so I didn't know. I just thought I'd throw it out there that they have upgraded
But-
council chambers.
Yeah, just ask Linda, because she's the one who ran everything for the redistricting committee, so she knows what's up there.
Will,
Okay.
how many people can be seated there?
Oh, at least 15 to 20.
Okay, so we have
Yeah.
guests, then people are gonna be able to come.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the only problem with the third floor conference room, I experienced it both in the room and virtual. Virtual does not work when the people at the room who are there are masked, because for some strange reason, the microphones are not that sensitive. They're too high up in the ceiling to pick up the sound really acoustically well. It does not work. Everybody that I heard was so muffled. It did not work when I was attending virtually. In person, it works like a charm. And I mentioned that to Linda. I told her that I was very disappointed.
Yeah, council chambers are beautiful, can accommodate an even larger crowd, but the acoustics are poor and the seating is uncomfortable. So.
Well, they fixed the acoustics so I mean,
Good.
it's obviously up
Good.
to the commission. If you guys want to kind of one by one, you'll come in and kind of decide which ones you feel for your business would work better. I'm sure that we could arrange that so you can see the new technology and how everything has been retrofitted.
Yeah, because the
That's
third
good.
floor.
The important thing always to consider is, especially when it's, videotape televised, that the public can hear and see, that sometimes is a challenge.
And this is Tim, and I'm going to make one recommendation. Maybe Wayne, you'd be the best for this. The last response or notice we got from the mayor's office is that virtual meetings will still continue as the standard operating procedure to minimize in-person contact. Now, I know they're having some other meetings and they are doing hybrid meetings, but I would say it might be good to check with Linda Kelleher to see if moving to a hybrid meeting for a planned public meeting like the Planning Commission would be in agreement with the mayor's most recent notice.
Yeah.
Just to check.
Okay, I'll take care of that email.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Everybody else has enough to do.
So Michelle, I would assume then that everything's gonna have to be re-advertised for the rest of the year then, right?
I haven't seen I haven't seen the original advertisement. I don't know, in consideration of waiting to hear what the mayor says, do we want to wait and defer this decision till for an April meeting?
Yeah.
You don't want to step on toes.
Yeah.
Okay, so our March meeting will be not the hybrid, it'll be the Zoom.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. So March,
If somebody can get me the advertisement for this year, that way we can be prepared.
Okay.
You have that, Jerome, right?
I have it, somewhere in my possession now.
Okay, I'm happy to, I think I know how to locate it pretty quickly. I can send it to Michelle.
Send it to me.
I got it.
Thank you.
okay, so for the March meeting, we'll go with Zoom, and then hopefully for the April meeting, we'll be able to go hybrid. Very good. And then the second part of the discussion was about workshops. However, I put that on the agenda for our March 14th meeting so that we can discuss that then. Especially since we've pushed back the meeting, the hybrid meeting. So I think it'll be a better idea to do have that discussion on the 14th.
Mr. Chairman, as it's questionable if I'll be in attendance on the 14th, if you do workshops and desire me to attend, I do have other night meeting obligations. So afternoon, majority of the days I'm available, but if there'd be a night meeting consideration for a workshop, if I just let me know so I can provide you my typical unavailable dates.
Okay.
Michelle,
Thursday.
if we do select to have workshop sessions on a specific date, could we also do at that same time do site meetings?
On site, if you advertised them as such. That
Just like
may,
wondering if
that may
we were
be,
told.
that may be difficult because you're going to different locations.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think, Mr. Chairman, that of course it would be advertised as a workshop, however that's legally phrased, and there wouldn't be any votes, taken, even considered debated, so it probably there wouldn't be an immediate need for council's availability at that point, so that, or a stand-in or anything, I would, we could always have our questions submitted in the meantime.
Yeah, or ahead of time. It's just if you were desiring me to be
Right.
something to consider.
Yeah,
Yeah, thank you.
yeah, because we would be doing sketch plans and things like that was the idea. So,
Oh, so we would, because we don't take action on those, but if we have a question arose, we could just, yeah, I see what you're saying then.
yeah,
We could just submit the question in the meantime then.
correct, yeah. Okay, and with that, do you have anything else to run?
Nope, not at this time. Thanks again, Emily, for all your assistance.
You're welcome.
Okay, anything
Thank
from
you.
anyone else on the commission, including staff? Very good. I ask for a motion to adjourn.
Bob Conklin, motion to adjourn.
Okay, thank you, Bob.
Second.
Thank you, Will. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, very good. Thank you very much. And we will see hopefully everyone on the 14th. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Aye.